Hello, hello. Welcome on in, everyone. Going to be another exciting day of exploration with DeFi Kingdoms and GPT-4. We're doing a live stream right now, so I do want to do some more specific, very designated videos, but for now, we're just going to do a live stream. So it's just going to kind of be very flowy. All right, let's get started with some things. I know there's nobody in chat right now, and that's okay. Filter in as you want to. I might be paying attention a little bit to chat today, but the main idea is I just want to explore and show some things. So, as many of y'all know that have been following around with me, I've been offline for a little bit. I've really been exploring a lot more AI stuff. Midjourney is pretty cool. Blue Willow is kind of a totally free alternative to that. So I've been using a lot more Blue Willow. And then, of course, GPT-4 just came out a few days ago, and I've been exploring that Chat GPT for a while now, even more so. I'm even more excited about GPT-4. How could we integrate that with DeFi Kingdoms or any project that y'all might want? Of course, right now, one of my main focuses besides AI and chat stuff is DeFi Kingdoms. So I'm going to focus a little bit on that today, but I do have a lot of other ideas for interactions with GPT. And in fact, I feel like my next several videos might not be very related to DeFi Kingdoms, but a lot more on the Chat GPT and the capabilities of that. At any rate, let's go ahead and start today with a little bit about GPT. So I have the paid version, and the paid version, you can just go to chat.openai.com. I will throw that link into the chat if anybody is not aware of that. Throw that into the chat. But chat.openai.com. And what I did for myself is I just created an account using my Google account. It was really easy. Didn't really need to fill out a lot of information. I did need to give it my phone number. It sent me a text message to confirm and to get access, and then I was in. So as long as you don't mind doing that, it's pretty good. And there is a free version that y'all can use. Notice that I have the paid version. So I have an option, a couple of options. I can use GPT-4, which is the very latest version. I don't want to use that quite as much. Notice if I click GPT-4, it says it's currently has a cap of only 25 messages every 3 hours. And that's because so many people are using it, and GPT-4 does take up, if we look here, GPT-4 is taking up, or it does have a lower speed because it's taking up a lot more resources, right? GPT 3.5, this legacy version, is still pretty slow, and my paid for access to GPT 3.5, since I am paying, I'm not only getting GPT-4, but I'm also getting a much faster version of GPT-3. So for me, $20 a month, definitely worth it. So I don't want to use all of my cap right now for GPT-4. But what I'm going to do is, for me, I'm only going to use a little bit of GPT-4 if I need that extra like oomph that I might need more detail on something, or maybe I feel that GPT 3.5 isn't getting me. But I will say, for the most part, in my experience, at least at this point right now, considering GPT-4 does not have multimodal capabilities where I can upload an image file to it. It should soon. That is one of the capabilities described as available to us in GPT-4, but that's technically not quite available to us yet. At any rate, it means that GPT 3.5 is going to be fine. Stomposaurus in chat says, "Hey, Rock, I only have 10 minutes until my next meeting, but I wanted to come in and support." Oh, thanks, Stomposaurus. Thank you so much for supporting. So we're about to get into some DeFi Kingdoms stuff using GPT 3.5, which is really good. And we want to be aware that GPT-4 is available, but what I'm using right now is only going to be version 3.5. So it's not going to be quite as good responses as we could get. And if we need to upgrade, or if we need to have a response that's based on a little bit better, we could use that. So let's first see, what do you know about DFK? What do you know about DFK? Right? Probably nothing. DFK is a term that could be dependent on a lot of things. And it gives me some ideas. Stop generating down here at the bottom. We don't need it to generate any more of that. All right. Not good. Okay. So, do you know about the NFT game called DeFi Kingdoms? Hey, Christian Peter, how are you doing? And Three Wolves, hey, welcome on in. Okay, so GPT is saying, yes, DeFi Kingdoms is a blockchain NFT game, utilizes NFT functions and built on the Binance Smart Chain. So notice, as I mentioned before in a couple of my other videos, there are some problems with facts. And so GPT has a tendency to what we call hallucinate quite a bit. Also keep in mind that the latest bit of information about, or that GPT knows about, is from September of 2021. So where was DeFi Kingdoms in its state of growth in September 2021? Not very far along. And so who knows where it's picking up this information. At any rate, it is definitely not correct, right? So one thing that I want to pass on to y'all right away is we need to be very careful. Generally, I would say 95%, maybe even more, 95% of the information you get from GPT chat or chat GPT is going to be correct. But we can't take everything as fact, as shown here. Well, we could correct it, right? So we could say, no, that's not correct. DeFi Kingdoms was originally built on the Harmony blockchain, but has since moved to its own chain called DFK chain, which is a subnet of the Avalanche blockchain, right? So we could correct it. And apologize for the mistake on the previous response. You're correct, even though I don't think it really has confirmed that it's not saying I'm correct because it's confirmed it necessarily. It's maybe possibly just going to automatically agree with me for some reason. But whatever the case is, you're correct. It was initially built on the Harmony blockchain, but has since migrated to its own called this and blah, blah, blah. So pretty much just taking what I said. I don't know if it would always take what I say as a fact, which we want to be very careful about feeding it incorrect information. We might not know the correct information ourselves, even though we might think we do. So that could poison your own well if you're not careful, right? So make sure you have facts. I would say, like I said, 95% of ChatGPT is going to be correct, but especially with things that bleed in after September 2021, you might have some issues, might not know or won't know about those things for sure. And so since DeFi Kingdoms, came into existence or wasn't very popular right around there, then there could be some issues. But that's not really the point that I want to make right now. So the next thing that we want to do is say, from this point on, when I say DFK, I am referring to, and I can hardly spell, I wish this would spell for me, referring to DeFi Kingdoms. That way I don't have to keep on typing out DeFi Kingdoms every time. Who are the founders of DFK? Right? I always like to end it. If I'm giving it some information, I always like to also end it with a question, so it gives me some stuff here. So, oh man, see, this is just not correct again. Project founders, Jay from Harmony. That's totally not true, right? So unfortunately, I don't know if that's true. I'm going to suspect it's probably not. So I can't wait for ChatGPT to be given a little bit more information as far as what it knows about. Things are moving so quickly. DeFi Kingdoms has just grown and exploded so recently that because we have a cutoff of September of 2021 for this chatbot, it's not very knowledgeable. But that isn't going to stop me from what I want to show with the other stuff. I just do want to be aware, y'all to be aware that some things might not particularly be accurate, especially with things that have been mostly created after that cutoff date. So let's do this. Say I want to create a story or something based on the lore for DeFi Kingdoms. Maybe I want to make a comic book or something like that, right? Eventually, or a web comic, whatever it is, based on the lore. Well, I don't really know, to be honest. I don't really know, and personally, I don't care about DFK lore that much. I'm interested in playing a game. I'm interested in doing some other stuff. I want to make money. I think the lore is going to be fun, and when there is lore, I might pay attention to it a little bit. But I've never been a lore guy, whether it's in Warcraft or anything like that. I really didn't care about the lore or the storyline. But let's play along a little bit here and see. So, what is the lore for DeFi Kingdoms? So in this particular case, I'm looking on Google rather than looking at the GPT chatbot, and I'm going to try to find the lore that DeFi Kingdoms has about itself, right? And so that way I can incorporate all of this lore into GPT chatbot, even though it doesn't really know about it too much, right? And so I'm just going to go ahead and take all of this, Control C, and come back over to the GPT chatbot and say, here is the lore. Oops, we don't even capitalize. So here's the lore for DFK. Please summarize it into one paragraph. And I'm just going to paste, all right? So it takes all of that input, and it could be a lot more. I think I think ChatGPT 3.5 has up to 3,000 words of input or memory or something, somewhere like that, although I've heard it's more. And GPT-4, which we do have access to on my paid version, has something like 24 or 25,000 words, so a lot more. Anyway, it says DeFi Kingdoms is set in a world called Gaia that was once a singular continent inhabited by a single people. These people embarked on an era of technological advancement that led to the destruction of Gaia. However, some people remained true to Gaia and were granted safe passage to the inner grove, and on and on. I'm not going to read the entire thing to you, but okay. So it's got all this input and it's got all this kind of stuff. So, do you know the main, or maybe I should even ask, does DFK have a main deity, spell that right? Maybe we don't even have to spell it right, in their lore? Does not have a single deity, but there are several references to different gods or goddesses. Okay. What are the names of the gods and the goddesses? Okay, so we have Ire, the god of renewal, Gaia, the goddess of nature, archdruids. And again, I don't know if this is 100% fact. If I was really going to be doing something a little bit more serious, I would research that, even though I gave it all of the data copied and pasted in there. We do have to keep in mind that ChatGPT does have a tendency to hallucinate, which does make it good for some things. But if we want things that are very fact specific, we need to double check our work, right? But this, for what my purposes are here, I don't really even care too much about the facts, as I'm just showing some examples of how to interact, or maybe how some more of us could use ChatGPT to integrate or play with DFK, right? So let's say that we've got Gaia, the goddess of nature, who's associated with the inner grove, and so on. Okay, so please write me a 200 word, or actually, maybe not even this, but let's just start here. Daredevil says, "How are you today?" "I am fine. Sergeant Filthy Me Nasty in the house too." Thanks, guys. Thanks for stopping by. We're exploring ChatGPT with DFK today. So let's say, please write me a story, a 200-word story, where a hero called, and I could take one of my my Gen Zeros perhaps or something. Let's come over here and let's take a look at just some of my heroes, for example. So I'm not sure if this account has the Gen Zeros or not. It doesn't necessarily look like it, but I'm just going to go ahead and take this name and say Control V. So please write me a 200-word story where a hero called this tries to level up and gain experience, and has a run-in with Gaia. All right, so of course, the more details we give it, the better story we're going to get. But I'm really just trying to show you, again, the purpose of the video today is just to kind of show you how we could explore more creativity and different things with ChatGPT when it comes to DeFi Kingdoms. So here we've got about a 200-word story. Mimbab Battle Arrow was a seasoned hero, having fought countless battle levels and vanquished many foes. Well, tell you what, guys, let's just come over here. I see that Mimbab Battle Arrow is a level 1 archer thief. So let's come back over here and let's say, please rewrite that considering our hero is only level 1 and is an archer slash thief. So what I'm trying to show y'all here right now is the fact that, oops, it made a, Three Wolves says a level 1 PJ. Is that true? I didn't notice that. Ah, yes. So, because he's a Perilous Journey hero as well, I think that would be an amazing new thing, or something that we would want to include in there. Of course, we would also want to include the lore that deals with the Perilous Journey as well, right? So the story might include something like that. But for now, let's just say, please rewrite considering our hero is only level 1 and is an archer thief. He's also a Perilous Journey hero, which means he's survived the deadly, maybe? Yeah, I guess it was deadly voyage from old. I hate when we use Serendale 2.0. I would really, I'm just calling it Old Serendale and Serendale, or New Serendale. So it also fits better in context of a story. People don't go around saying, hey, this is New York 2.0. This is Amsterdam 2.0. It's New Amsterdam and New York, right? Or York. It's the Old Serendale, which from Old Serendale to Crystal Vale. Also, those are two realms in the game, right? Okay, so then again, the purpose of me putting this in here right now is just to show y'all we didn't really it didn't come up with what I felt was a good introduction for Mehmed Battle Arrow, fighting countless battles and vanquishing many foes when he's only level 1. And so I should have probably taken a closer look at what his stats and features are. If I really wanted to write a story about this particular hero, maybe even gone into the genetics and all this kind of stuff. But I didn't do that kind of on purpose because I wanted to show, I mean, I think it's very important aspect to see how easy it is to use the AI to make adjustments to something where it's already put something in there, right? So we just said, please write this considering this new stuff. So here it changes that. Mimbab Battle Arrow was a humble level 1 hero starting out on his journey to become a renowned archer and thief in the world of DeFi Kingdoms. Actually, not the world of DeFi Kingdoms, is it? I think it's the world of Gaia. So we'll make that change. So in fact, I'll just go ahead and type that out. The world's name is Gaia. Well, let's see. Having survived the deadly voyage from Old Serendale to Crystal Vale as a perilous journey hero, Mimbab determined to level up and become a true champion of the realm while on a mission to gather rare herbs. And we could say well, tell you what we ought to do. What is the profession, right? That's a good question. So let's see. Profession is really gardening, all right? Not foraging or mining or fishing. So maybe Mimbab is doing more for gardening and not for foraging, right? So we'll come back over here. He is more of a gardener than a forager. All right. And let's see what else. Tell you what, did I get it wrong? Is the world name Gaia, or is that just a goddess? Maybe the world's name is something different. Let me catch up in chat here for just a minute. I saw someone on Twitter ask ChatGPT how to make the most money, crypto, and $100. I'm intrigued to try that. Yeah. Do you want me to try that right after this? I can certainly type that in and see what it gets. For that type of thing, we'll definitely want to use the version 4 of ChatGPT and not the version I'm using right now, which is only 3.5. Let's see. Daryl Evil says, I started using ChatGPT for work. Hope to see some good results from it. Never thought it would be used for DFK. That's part of why I'm doing this stream right now. It's just because I'm finding almost a life-changing, it's almost, I don't even want to say almost. I feel that already ChatGPT could be on the verge of being having more significant impact to me personally than my cell phone did when I was first starting to use it, right? When I was first starting to use my cell phone, it was nice to have. And I'm not saying it might be more impactful than my cell phone is today, right now. Right? I use my cell phone for almost every single thing. But I would say that in the last week, I've been using ChatGPT for probably more than 12 hours a day, diving into all kinds of rabbit holes. It's been very, very interesting, very eye-opening. It's been inspirational in lots of different ways, and very useful in an incredible number of ways. So anyway, we've got a story starting to show up here. So let me just press enter on this. Let's see. And then I'm also going to finish this off by saying, also, let's convert this to a screenplay, right? Maybe I want to do a video. Maybe I want to do a movie, like an animated movie based on these characters. So let's have it write a screenplay for this. And so it does. Fade in. External forest during the day. Mimba Battlero, a level 1 hero, makes his way through the forest with a backpack, blah, blah, blah. Suddenly, he hears a voice. Gaia saying, "Greetings, young hero." Mimba turns around and sees a figure in the distance. It's Gaia, the goddess of nature, and he can hardly believe his eyes. "My lady, is that really you?" Mimbab says. Gaia says, "Yes, it is. You have been chosen, Mimbab, as a perilous journey hero who survived the deadly voyage." And of course, we could make it sound more human if we wanted. There's a couple of ways to work on that kind of thing as well. But what I really want to get across to y'all right now is the ease of which we could do something like, now rewrite that as a poem, right? Maybe we want to write poetry about DFK. Mimbad, battle arrow, level 1 and true, a gardener at heart and a hero in the queue. In the forest he roamed, seeking rare herbs and plants, his bow at the ready, his eyes in a trance. And I won't read the whole thing, but you get the idea, right? So now we have very easy poetry. There's been some talk that ChatGPT might not sound very human-like, right? In fact, I'll get into that in just a minute. But first, I don't want to neglect the chat room. So Sergeant said, putting in $100 to make putting in $100 of crypto, trying that. So let's do something here real quick. I'm going to check on new chat. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with ChatGPT, a few weeks ago, we had this column over here on the left-hand side that would allow us to have multiple, kind of like folders of chat interactions that we're dealing with. Remember that ChatGPT, every time I click on new chat, it's going to kind of forget everything that we've talked about so far, and it's going to start a new chat. So rather than do that, I might want to like put a pause on a project's idea for a moment, start something new, and then come back to it later. Unfortunately, right now, I think what's happened over the last week is I think I heard some news about somebody gaining access to somebody else's chat history, and that could have been an invasion of privacy or some kind of privacy concern. So in the meantime, ChatGPT or OpenAI has taken away the ability to have these chat folder remembrances, whatever you want to call them. And they're working to restore it right now. But in the meantime, we don't have access to all those histories. They've told us in somewhere, like there's a link over here, status.openai.com, where we can see we've fully restored ChatGPT services. We're continuing to work to restore the past conversations, user history. So I feel that we are going to get our past histories back, fortunately. But in the meantime, anything that I'm typing in right now is going to be forgotten. And in this particular case, I don't care about that. I'm just goofing off in a way and kind of showing you all how to play around with some stuff. But if you're a little bit more serious about diving in or getting started and you don't, not really sure how to deal with that, I would say it's very simple to copy your prompts that you've used in the past and maybe even copy some of the important or interesting text that you got back as a response and just open yourself up a text file or a Google Doc or an email and paste that stuff into there. And then that way, just like at the beginning of this video, where I took all of the lore from the DeFi Kingdoms webpage and pasted it in, you could come back and paste in all of your copy paste that you've had, and the chatbot would automatically remember everything that you've been talking about previously, right? So in the meantime, Sergeant Philip McNasty had an interesting question. So I'm going to jump off of this topic, or maybe I won't close out this window and start a new chat. Maybe we'll just continue on from here. He says, or no, we can't because I need to use ChatGPT4. So here's an interesting thing. I'm first going to say, I'm just going to say exactly what Sergeant Filthy McNasty said. I'm just going to copy and paste directly in. I saw someone on Twitter ask ChatGPT, even spelling it wrong, and I know you know how to spell it, Sergeant. I want to kind of show it can fix typos as well. So we don't even have to type perfectly, which people like me definitely need because I don't type perfectly. So we want to see how to make the most money in crypto with $100. I'm intrigued by that. Press enter. So I'm pretty sure, yep, we're all automatically going to get something where it says there might be some risks and there could be some problems. I'm actually surprised we're getting this much output already, because in general, when I've typed in like investment or money making questions that deal with crypto or stocks or something, oftentimes I just get a very short reply that says, I don't answer financial response. You can manipulate ChatGPT in such a way to ask it a question where it will give you a better answer, but sometimes it can be a little challenging. And I wanted to show that as well. So I'm a little surprised that we got this much information, but let's take a look. First, research before investing any money. It's important to do your due diligence, obviously. I'm really glad it's saying this, of course, but this is something we already know. Diversify. Don't put all of your money into one crypto. Spread your investment across different coins to minimize risk and increase your chance of profits. Consider long-term investing instead of trying to make quick gains. Considering holding your investments long-term allows you to weather any market fluctuations. And that's, again, where, I guess diamond hands is a good way to say that. We don't want to be getting out of our crypto too soon, even when the market's bad. Use reputable exchanges. Man, see, that's not something that I personally would agree with. Only invest in reputable, secure cryptocurrency exchanges to avoid fraud and hacking risk. But I think most of us know, not your keys, not your crypto. And I would say, why would you encourage people to use centralized exchanges when we know so many people have lost their funds by fraud or mismanagement of those exchanges? Let's just keep it simple like that for now. So I'm interrogating ChatGPT a little bit. Like, why would you even encourage people to do that? Let's see what it has to say. Right. I apologize. My previous response came across encouraging centralized exchanges. The decision to use centralized exchanges or decentralized ultimately depends on personal preference and risk tolerance. Keep in mind also that the data that this chatbot has only goes up to September of 2021. And so it doesn't know about FTX as an example. Of course, it probably knows about Mt. Gox. We could ask it. And I'm sure that there are some other exchanges that have gone down that it probably knows about as well. But we do need to keep in mind that it can't give you current, up-to-the-date information on things. Decentralized exchanges offer more secure and trustless options, and then centralized exchanges, on the other hand, offer greater liquidity. In the end, it's important for us to know. Okay, so that's all right. We can look into that. But I think this kind of sidesteps Sargent's question a little bit, right? I mean, don't y'all feel that this is interesting? I'm interested to see this kind of reply here, but I think what Sargent was trying to get at a little bit more was, if I have $100, give me more of a detailed outline or layout of how to go about doing that. So I'm just going to go ahead and say, give me a few options for crypto that would that I could best invest. This isn't going to get us best. Could best invest in with $100. So because of the wording, because of the way that I'm wording this, and I'm not sure really a better way, we could ask GPT chat to word it for us in a better way even, but the way I'm wording this right now, give me a few options for crypto that I could best invest in. I'm almost positive that we're going to get an answer saying, I can't offer you financial advice. But let's just see. Yep. Can't offer any specific financial advice, but it does, fortunately, give us a few things. Now, one of the things that I will say, Sargent, if you want to go into a little bit more detail about your question specifically, we can. If you don't, then I'll just take my own spin on it and I'll try to get it to do a little bit more myself. But as an example, you say you saw someone on Twitter how to make the most money in crypto with $100. Somebody might say, just buy Bitcoin and hold it, right? I mean, because for one thing, you're not saying a time frame, and if you're talking about the most money, there have been situations where crypto has skyrocketed up, but then fallen. So, um, what kind of time frame are we looking at? Are we looking for something stable or short term? What about something that 10x's or 50x's, but then is a rug pull and crashes after that, right? So there's a lot of different things that you could include, and I think that question like that might be a little bit vague. But we could even have, if we didn't know a better way to word that, we could even have ChatGPT word it better. And that's what I'm going to try to do here. So anyway, here we do get a couple of ideas. It talks about Bitcoin as the largest well-known cryptocurrencies, offering a good starting point. You can do this. Ethereum is the second largest cryptocurrency. Binance Coin, Cardano, Dogecoin, and so on are some good things. Or say, uh, what crypto has gained the most in the last 6 months? And again, not really sure what it's going to say. Crypto can be highly volatile, prices change, but here we see, and again, keeping in mind that the prices for these are only since September the 2021 is the latest information that it has. So I don't think that you would really want to use ChatGPT too much for like real investing. We can get some ideas for it, but I mean, that's what, a year and a half past now. And there's so much that happens in crypto. We're just talking about Solana, Binance Coin, Cardano, Polygon, Ethereum. It's still interesting, right? So as of September 2021, which is its cutoff date, it has increased value by over 5,000% since March of 2021. Binance Coin, 200% since that, 1,000% for Cardano, and so on. So this could be something good if you just wanted to go and sit in a coin. What are some other strategies we could use besides just buying and holding? All right. So trading. Trading involves buying and selling cryptocurrencies on an exchange. Sure. We could mine, involves computer process. Well, yeah, of course we could mine. We could do staking options. We could do yield farming. We could do investing in ICOs. Again, I don't know how much of this stuff, just seeing ICOs there makes me think about potentially, I don't want to say illegal things, but things that might have been rug pulls or something like that in the past. So again, definitely don't want to take everything it says and just run with it straight off. But let's say that we had trading, for example. Let's say we wanted to do something with trading. We could go further and say, trading sounds good. What are the top 5 um, uh, exchanges? Binance, Dubai, Coinbase Pro, Kraken. All right. And we could even, if it didn't, let me read a little bit about Binance. It's one of the largest, most popular exchanges. It's offered a wide range. Okay. So one of the things that we might even go into is, can you provide um, pros and cons between Binance and Coinbase Pro? And so it's going to give me a list of some of the pros and cons so you can make a better decision. Again, when we're talking about money or something with facts, and especially with money that you're going to be doing your money, please do not take the output that ChatGPT gives you as absolute solid or even truthful advice. I have no idea if these pros and cons are accurate or not, right? So I just would want to get an idea of that. And then if I had a little bit more suspicion or something, I would say, give me a link that talks about um, finance uh, pros and cons. Because the things that you see on Google from the Google search engine might actually be a little bit more accurate than what ChatGPT is going to give you. So we have a couple of things. I'm just going to click on this link right there. I really discourage y'all clicking on links from things. I feel that I've seen some messages that ChatGPT might even hallucinate on links, like where they don't actually go to the real website that they say they're going to. It's just kind of hallucinating. And we do not want to be going to a website that might not be the real website. So I did it this time, but it's not a good practice. So Coin Central, Binance Review, and here we have a good thing. Now, I could have gotten this information just by going to Google and doing a Google search. And so if I really wanted to fact check everything before I made an actual financial decision, I would definitely do that. What we're doing here, though, right now is we're just getting some ideas. We're getting some inspiration and some ideas for uh, how we could start to formulate some ideas, right? So, Sergeant, if there's anything more that you want me to ask specifically, then go ahead. Now, we could further go down. So, what I did is I just asked for some basic ideas and we could just jump in. Then I further asked, what are some other, up here, I asked, what are some other strategies we could do besides buying and holding for that? And it gave me a few options. We could drill down, like I said, show me some trading stuff, and we could drill down into those options. And so we could really use it as a good resource um, right there. So that's something that I wanted to show with that. Daryl Evil says, I just started using ChatGPT for work, hope to see some good results, and never thought it would be use. Yeah. And so, like I said earlier, I've been using ChatGPT for about 12 hours a day for the last week or so, and it has really opened my eyes, inspired me, and stuff like that. And not just using it, but I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos where people are talking about it as well. It's amazing what people are going to be using it for and so on. Um, I'm tempted to use an AI to come up with some questions. In fact, Sergeant, I did that for you. I don't know if I sent you that list or not, but I was actually thinking about you the other day, and I came up with a list of questions. I don't know where they are right off. Did I send you a few things or did I not? I don't remember. And I don't have them easily handy right at the moment. But one of the things that I did ask, or one of the prompts that I did give here is um, to even get myself started thinking in the right idea for questions that dealt with, or that Sergeant Filthy McNasty might have on his show, are given that DFK is an NFT crypto based game with real money at stake. Um, the project has been delayed longer than expected for the release of their upcoming PvP game. What would be some interesting questions to ask a panel of uh, dedicated game players? Let's just start off with something like that, right? Let's see. Number one, how has the delay of the PvP game impacted your interest in DFK? Are you still excited about the game, or has the delay made you lose interest? And I'll be quite honest, if I'm going to answer that myself, that actually is a rather relevant question to me. The consistent delays that we've had have absolutely, it's not been the main thing that has kind of brought me away from DFK, but it is a massively major factor, to be quite honest with y'all. I'm here, or I want to play a game. Of course, I also want to make money. And right now, there's just not enough people in DFK to make money. There is not what I would say is a fun game. So I think I mentioned in one of my last videos that I made that I've been spending an hour here or there playing even Heroes of Might and Magic. I even spent $10 to download the old Heroes of Might and Magic version 3, or Heroes of Might and Magic 3, about a month ago or so. And I've been playing a couple hours here and there. So I'm even just choosing a 20-year-old free game, which I actually had to pay $10 for to be able to download it again. I've been doing that and spending a little bit of my time rather than even doing anything with DFK, right? That rather than spending that hour that I've been playing with an hour of DFK. So yeah, I want to play a game. And when I was thinking about DFK and I was thinking about some of the advancements that DFK, I'm excited for, I'm expecting that the DFK PvE could possibly be very much like Heroes of Might and Magic. And thinking about that, and the amount that I was thinking about that a few months ago actually inspired me to like, hey, I love that game. I want to go play that game. And so I did. I just downloaded it and started playing it for a little while. Of course, I've been doing a lot of other things other than that. But, when I have a spare hour to do something, I might play Heroes of Might and Magic rather than DFK, right? So there is a big impact of that. And it's possibly not just me, right? Are you excited about the game? Now, I am still very bullish on DFK, and I cannot wait for us to have the game implemented, right? But I have got to be honest and say that has been an issue there. So what features are you most looking forward to in the upcoming PvP game? Are there any specific aspects of the game? And again, you could answer that. It looks like, how do you think real money aspect will impact the game's community and gameplay experience? Are you concerned about the potential risks and challenges of playing with real money and real stakes? I would say, what is the how do I spell that? Likelihood of players giving false information to other people to get an advantage in the game? Let's see. I don't have any specific data on that. However, it's important to note that most games have a measure in place to prevent cheating. But see, this isn't okay. So, so it's very interesting. It's important to note that most online games have a measure in place to prevent cheating or other forms of misconduct. But is it part of the game in poker to bluff and mislead your opponents? DFK would be similar in that way. So misinformation would not be cheating or against the rules. All right, so apparently this AI has a very hard time telling people it's okay to cheat. However, so it says, yes, bluffing and opposing is acceptable strategy in poker and is considered legitimate gameplay, blah, blah, blah. However, it's important to note that there is a difference between strategic deception and outright dishonesty or cheating. I would agree with that as well, right? Because I wouldn't want someone in the DFK community to outright be dishonest or lead, our community members that are trying to have fun down a path that actually makes them lose money. But guys, just something that's popping into my head at the moment is where would you draw the line? And Sergeant, maybe that. So here's a good thing, Sergeant. Just me exploring, and this is a great example of me exploring with ChatGPT is leading me to this, right? Where coming down this path and continuing to ask these questions, I now have to ask, where would we draw the line between a game-friendly, fun misdirection of something that throws off our opponents in DFK as opposed to an outright lie or deceptive? Because we have to know, guys, y'all have to know, the only way for you to make money in this game is to take money from other people, right? Am I mistaken in that? How is the value coming into DFK, right? And so if that's true, just like in poker, you're going to have to take money from someone else to get money yourself. And if you're playing, then your intent is going to be, I want to win and take money from other people, right? And or I'm going to be okay with giving my money. Now, there is a free aspect, and this is one of the things that I've mentioned several other times in some of my previous videos, and that is there have been countless, there have been at least half a dozen games that I've played in the past where I've paid for those games, and even $400 a month I was paying towards a game called Forge of Empire. I'm sure I've mentioned that several times in my past videos, but for those of y'all that are new, those of y'all that don't remember that, played Forge of Empires for a couple of years. I was in the top guild, and to be in the top guild, I had to pay $400 a month to be at that top bracket level, right? And I did not mind doing that. And I was playing about 12 hours a day on that game, and it was a lot of fun. And I didn't expect a single dime back in return. It was all fun. So there are people out there, including myself, that if we find a fun game, we might be willing to pay or put in some large amount of money, perhaps, and not expect anything back. And that is, I think, what a lot of these NFT games are really going to require. And we've talked about that topic on a couple of my other videos in the past, so I don't want to spend a huge amount of time talking about just that point. But I do want to bring us to a point here where, for the most part, if some people are winning money, that means other people are losing money. And as long as most of us are okay with losing money and just having fun with the game, then that's fine. And to some extent, I'm fine with that, right? To some extent, I'm personally okay with that. As long as I'm having enough fun for that. And there might be free aspects of DFK that I don't mind playing where I'm not really having my money, I'm not really losing a lot of money for that. Like if I could just do gardening and some kind of farming or PvE, and maybe I'm only winning, $2 a week or $2 a day or something like that. I might be happy with that just because I'm having fun in a free game that doesn't really require anything of me. But I'm sure that there are going to be professional level players, right? And this is what people like Mythic Squad and Grady and a bunch of these other people are doing. I think there's going to be a level, just like you can go to Fortnite and you can see professional Fortnite players or Dota players or something where these teams are making tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars to see or to watch like esports. And if DFK can get up to that level where people are making hundreds of thousands of dollars, even as a team or a guild in DFK, then I think that could be a lot of fun. And I wouldn't mind playing in a guild, even just for fun, but it would be cool if I was in a guild that was helping people to do things or helping our guild to do things. And then maybe as a guild, I was just a cog in the whole machine there, and ultimately our guild was winning a certain amount of time, and I could get a little, profit from that or something. I think that would be cool. All right, so back to the original question here, and I'll catch up in chat in just a minute. So one thing that we could do for Sergeant's stream here is this has kind of led me to maybe a potentially very good question, even though it didn't start off to be, I didn't really know what I might ask. But now after seeing this response from ChatGPT talking about the importance between strategic deception and outright dishonesty, maybe the real question to ask people is, where do you draw the line between fun, bluffing, and deceptive strategy in the game and misleading a person to a point where you're causing them to lose money for your gain, right? I think as adults, we probably all need to realize, and maybe one of the things that we should look at is that DFK is a lot more like poker, where there's real cash on the line, as opposed to a game like Monopoly, right? Where everyone's just having a good time and there's no real money at stake for that. And as long as we think of DeFi Kingdoms as a little bit more like poker, then I think that might help more of us to be in the mindset that, hey, these are other people. And I think right now we're a pretty good community that's trying to help each other out. And I hope that it remains that way for the most part. But we do have to be aware of stuff like that, right? But it's an interesting question. Anyway, let me catch up in chat and see where y'all are at. And let's see. Three Wolves, we made up a little story about DeFi Kingdoms a little bit earlier. And so Three Wolves is asking, hero in the queue, that's a smart AI, right? And so what we could do, we made up a poem about DeFi Kingdoms a little earlier. And one of the things that we could do also with that poem right here is, if some aspects of this poem weren't correct, I would say that my experience with ChatGPT so far is it's really very good at some things. And a lot of times there are additional tweaks that we can give it that would help it pass for a human type of reply. But a lot of times it might seem like a very robotic reply. And I wouldn't be too skeptical about that right off the bat. If you're saying, oh, ChatGPT just gives a bunch of very robotic replies, well, then you might want to look up how could we do that a little bit. I've got a couple of other videos doing things. Let's just do something here just real quick. Let's open up another YouTube thing and say, how could we, or what do I want to say? Or how can we make ChatGPT sound more human? I think I just watched a video. But there are a couple of different ways that we could do that. And if I look at my history for this, oops, that probably wasn't it. Look at history. This one? A chat. Nope, not that one either. This one right here. There we go. So I'm going to drop. I'm going to drop this link into chat. This was actually a pretty good one, and I'm not going to play it here on stream right now. It's only 3 minutes. It's not very long, but there's a couple of things that they do to make it sound more human, which I really thought was pretty good. So I think they've got some stuff written down here. It's important to understand that well-written so what we would do is we would prepare ChatGPT by actually typing into the thing. It's important to understand that well-written piece has both complexity and variation of sentences. Humans tend to write, and this is actually what he put in chat. So let's come back over to ChatGPT for a second and say, can you remember our story about DFK from earlier. Let's just see if it can remember what we were talking about a few minutes ago. All right. Yes, I remember the story about Mimba Battle Arrow, a level 1 archer thief in DFK who is a survivor of the perilous journey, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so now what we're going to say is Control V and paste. So I'm actually going to just paste in what this guy says. And of course, this is going to help guide ChatGPT. See that it's important to understand that well-written piece has complexity and variations and so on. Do you understand? And say, yeah, I understand with all that, right? And then we can say, back over here to this video, I think they even give something else. So now a reprompt. Using the concepts shared previously, rewrite that to be this more human way, right? So instead of blog post, I actually have a story. So I'm just going to say story so we don't confuse it. Using the concepts previously shared, rewrite the story with a high degree of all this kind of stuff, rewrite as humans, boom. And so it should rewrite that for us. Amidst the rolling hills and verdant forests of the world of Gaia, a humble gardener named Mimba Battle Arrow is set to make a name for himself in the realm of DeFi Kingdoms. Armed with nothing but his trusty bow and sharp wit, Mimbab has survived the perilous journey from Old Serendale to Crystal Vale and now sought to hone his skills and rise through the ranks of the game. Undeterred by challenges, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but you can see here several paragraphs about the story now rewritten, I think, in somewhat of a better humanistic way. There are websites, I will say, that even this this video goes in to talk about as far as where is it? Somewhere right around in here. Yeah. Where they're showing platform.ai, openai.com, and then also maybe something a little bit further, corrector.api. These are some tools online that you can plug in a bit of text, and it's going to tell you if it thinks that the text is AI generated or not AI generated. And so apparently with the new improvements that this guy has said about this text that he's made, started off to be like 98 or 99% probability that it's AI generated. And now after he's put this stuff in, it comes out to 0.02% probably AI generated. So it was really cut down the feel of AI. So in other words, we use ChatGPT to rewrite our DFK story to make it sound more human. And apparently, according to at least a couple of these things right now, these tools, they're having a much more difficult time finding that it's written by an AI, right? So, did I copy and paste that link? Let me paste it again. I think I did, but just in case, let me paste that link again into chat for y'all for this specific video. Let me catch up in chat because I've seen a bunch of new people come into chat. I think I saw Grady in there, and B, of course, Franz is in here, Sticks, all that kind of stuff. So let's see what we got going on. Let's ask what crypto experts are suggesting instead of what GPT suggests. Question. So they're evil. Let's ask what crypto experts are suggesting. I definitely do not think that ChatGPT should replace what experts are saying, but there are a few things that I would want to keep in mind. For one, even though I'm saying that ChatGPT has a tendency to hallucinate right now and we can't trust it 100%, I don't even know who I would trust 100% anyway on a lot of things. So for me, it would be using ChatGPT to get another opinion that possibly would have a different level of bias. I could imagine somebody like who's the guy on like one of the mainstream media news channels or whatever that talks about investing a lot, and he's got a really hyper personality, and I think Kramer, is that his name or something like that? And apparently he makes a lot of suggestions, and there's a meme, in fact, about the fact that if he suggests something, you should do the opposite of whatever he suggests, right? Would you say that he's an expert in that field? I mean, there was a lot of people. If we go back and we look at a lot of other people, I know Crypto George is somebody that some of us take. I listen to a lot of his videos and so on. What some of these other people have said in the past about certain things? BitBoy at one point was I would say some people might have considered him an expert, and I think that he's said a lot of good things here and there, but he's also said some things that might not be good. So. Um, I'm not suggesting that we totally forget about humans, but I do want to say that I don't have access. I don't have daily access to BitBoy or I Am George or Kramer, but I do have daily access to ChatGPT. And so it can give me a little bit more customized response rather than just a Google search. And I could even hone in on a little bit more. And then, of course, I do suggest confirming what I get back from ChatGPT with some experts. Absolutely. Rock, love you, man. It's so good to hear your voice. Absolutely. So glad to be able to stream again today. Steve, this is interesting. Love the Rock's content. Thanks a lot. Don't forget to like the video. Oh, yeah, thanks. Like the video is always good. They're evil. Man, I'm so interested. Getting a lot of ideas to use ChatGPT. Just wait until, I mean, I've got a list of ideas that I want to expand your minds with. So, today we're kind of focused on DFK, but there are so many other things. By listening, am I living under a rock? Nice. Let's see. Strategic Deception Stick says new album title just dropped. Oh yeah, there you go. That could make a new album title, right? PvP has been on for a while. We're all battling for more jewel. Oh, Franz, is that true? Did PvP actually open up a couple of days ago? When you say a while, oh, Franz, I think you're talking about Fight Club, right? And in that particular case, you are right. We can't forget about Fight Club. Absolutely. Truth, that's the only way to make money. Absolutely. But ideally, they'd be receiving something equally valuable from them. Yeah, I hear that. So like my hero is worth 700 crystals to me and it's worth a perfect 5 summon advanced pair. Yeah, absolutely. So there's a whole lot of ideas. Fortunately for us in crypto, there's so many ways to make money that, and there's so many ways that different people have fun, right? Different people might categorize different things as being fun. And what one person's fun is might be very boring to another person, right? But I think that that's all okay and all good. And I'm really excited about the variety of content that DFK has to offer and is going to continue to provide, and the spin-offs that we have like Dragon's Crossing and so on is just blows my mind. Yeah. Daredevil says, but that's just the nature of trading, give and take. Absolutely right. And as long as most of us are aware of that, then I think that that's good. But so here's where my question comes in for maybe Sergeant to ask on the stream. When let's say that there was a trading, let's say unlike the normal stock market, there's only a group of people in the room. Maybe there's only 100 people in the room, and all those 100 people is the total supply of money in the stocks. And then you're playing a game where you're trying to get the most money. And if you're saying it's a game, then of course, like poker, you're going to potentially be somewhat strategically deceptive to win the game or get more money. But then when does that cross a line, if ever? Would that ever even cross a line where someone has manipulated someone else in a bad way, right? And I don't know if I have the answer to that, guys. I do feel that there is a limit. I feel that there's a limit to where I would personally feel uncomfortable giving information that would, let's just even take that a step further. Let's say that I found a really good strategy, but I wanted to take advantage of that for myself. And so I had this stream and I misled or misdirected everyone who listens to me on this certain topic, even if it was at least for a month, and maybe I would have a backup strategy to, like, after a month, I say, "Oh, man, wow, I didn't even realize that, but I've been using this other tactic for the entire time," right? Um, I would even feel uncomfortable about doing something like that myself. And, of course, different humans might have different feelings about how far they would be willing to go with that type of thing, right? Some people might say, like, well, in poker, that's part of you know, part of the game and to be expecting it, and I would say that that could be okay. But that is something that I feel is gonna be really interesting to come up against in the future. We want to at least be aware that even if all of us are great friends, there could be someone who has other motives, and there could always be a new person that comes in that doesn't care so much, doesn't know us very well, and doesn't feel bad about taking advantage of us, right? So we just need to be aware of that kind of stuff, I guess. And I suppose that most of us grown adults, and we recognize that this is a game that deals with money, and we're all investing at our own risk, right? But here's another good thought. Let's say that someone was doing some quote strategic deception, and that was part of their game plan strategy. And let's say a month later, after this person had done fairly well for themselves and gained a lot of money, and maybe some people lost money, and maybe some people could even directly attribute the fact that they lost money because of some of the practices of this person. How would the community feel about that? And I guess one question would be, what do you think the attitude would be of the community towards that person? In other words, would they shove them out? As an example, something that just popped into my mind is this bot. I forget its name, that goes and buys heroes in the tavern that are super cheap, right? And some people have said, "Oh, that guy's evil. He is taking advantage of the system and all this kind of stuff." I mean, in a way, I agree, right? Somebody who accidentally leaves off a zero in the price of their hero in their Gen 0 or whatever it is, they haven't fully analyzed the hero very well or something like that, or they make a mistake, then someone else takes advantage of that. But I mean, if something like that happened in poker, would you really hold the person who took advantage of that? Like someone, oops, I didn't see this card, or oops, I didn't do this. No, you wouldn't feel bad necessarily, or you might feel bad a little bit, like, oh man, that sucks for you. But you're not going to necessarily demonize the other player that took advantage of that situation, right? So where would you draw the line at what's acceptable behavior and what's not acceptable? And again, I don't have the answer for that, but it would be a really interesting question for someone like Sergeant Filthy McNasty to explore on his podcast, right? And I don't think any specific person would have a definitive answer on it, but this is the type of things that I find a little interesting. And specifically, I thought that it would be kind of interesting to see how we arrived at that type of question, since Sargent was asking, maybe would be curious to use ChatGPT to find other questions that kind of fit in well. And that's what I'm showing. I'm showing some interesting ways that we could use ChatGPT to uh, come up with or help us investigate potentially really interesting questions. And I didn't, it was from output that I got from ChatGPT that inspired me to continue down that path a little bit more. All right. I'm on what the brown gent calls the sucker side of the trade, and I still love it. Absolutely. So, like I said, there are games that I've played for many years where I've been paying $400 a month. I didn't expect anything back, and I was having a blast doing it. So, absolutely, to be losing, or you could think of it as spending money to play a fun game, perfectly acceptable to a lot of people, including myself. And I don't think that that's going to be a determination of if DeFi Kingdoms is going to succeed or not. I think DeFi Kingdoms is going to do fantastically. It's just a matter that not everyone is going to be able to win, or at least win to the extent that pro gamers. Again, are you playing Fortnite? Are you at the pro level of Fortnite or Dota or any of these games that you see on the esports? And those are the winners. Those are the people making the real money. The rest of us, better just enjoy a fun game. And that's what I'm expecting to play, is just a fun game with some friends. Right? And if I make some money, that's even better. I own some NFTs and that I can resell when I'm done with the game in 20 or 30 years, however long it takes me to get bored of DFK, if ever. then at least I have some assets that I could resell back out. And that's another massive advantage to DFK that I didn't have with those other games in the past. So that is another amazing aspect of it. Let's see. Is there any information asymmetrically? If there's any information asymmetrically, it's an issue. Yeah. So I'm not even sure what I would say would be asymmetric, unless, for example, there was a couple of people that got the inside information from the team and then didn't share that. And that I definitely would say would be a problem, right? If they use that to their advantage. But other than that, and so if that's what you're saying, is it would only be a case of asymmetric information, then I would say, based on that, me personally, I would say that sniping a hero, a Gen0 from the tavern, is not unfair, and that person should not be demonized at all for doing that. Congratulations to them for thinking about it and for doing it and for implementing a way to do it, right? That's what I would say. Although I still feel bad about it, and deep down, I don't really think that that's a good, friendly thing to do. Let's see. So if I overprice a hero because I think it has traits of value, but I actually isn't, then I'm not being a cheater. If I overprice a hero with unmarked tainted genes, then that's, unless that's it. No, I would say no, right? So sticks in turn. I think what you're saying here is, if you have listed an overpriced hero that has bad genes, I'm not even sure that would be a bad thing according to what you're saying here about asymmetric information. So what you're really saying is, just because someone didn't do their due diligence and wasn't smart enough to figure out on their own that this hero has bad genes, which is out there and anyone could do, then you're going to say that person cheated because they listed a hero at a higher price. I would have to argue against that, only to play devil's advocate. Again, to me, that does feel like an underhanded move for me personally. But everyone's on the same footing and everyone knows. And you're saying, well, what about a new person who comes in and they don't know? And I would say that's true. There's always going to be new people. DeFi Kingdoms is a very complex game and nobody's going to know everything. I've been here for several months. I don't know everything. I could easily be taken advantage of, even myself, as I am right now. Right? So is it my fault that I don't research what I'm doing? Or let's even just say, is it my fault to not research a stock well enough and I get duped for something, not looking at at some information about the stocks, the fundamentals or something like that, or not reading the technical charts very well or whatever, because I don't fully understand how to read the technical charts as well, or don't fully understand how to implement the fundamentals. But would anyone say that that's cheating if they took advantage of that? I would say no. I would say it's not cheating here either if someone overprices a hero for that. I think there'd probably be some people that disagree with me. That is a hot take for sure, though. Beeve, combat AI questions about current DeFi Kingdoms PvP. So, Beeve, one thing that I had in mind, I'm not going to do this today or myself, but what I thought would be really interesting is taking all the information that Wowee has come up with in his charts, copy pasting all of that into ChatGPT and then having ChatGPT do some analysis to find out what hero combinations work well together and might be good for offense or defense or whatever. And at least giving me some options for that, I think would be kind of fun to do. I'd be curious to know how well it was able to analyze all those things. And of course, part of the problem is, right, at this moment, we don't have the complete information to even know really how that stuff plays out. But we could experiment with ChatGPT with some examples and see how it interacts and then plug in all the details a little bit later on. I would think that's kind of fun, right? Let's see. Sticks in turn. ChatGPT seems super awesome, but I've been in beta testing on AI platforms as a lawyer for months now. Let me tell you, ChatGPT hardly scratches the surface of what tech can do. And I would say that's true. Although, Sticks, I'm going to ask you, have you played with ChatGPT 4 or GPT-4? I know that 3.5, which is what I'm using at this very moment, had a little bit of issues. But now that 4 is out and I can get access to 4 since I have the paid version, I've noticed that 4 is a lot better. And I mean, and when I say a lot, it's still not perfect. I wouldn't be tossing aside humans for that. But certainly it does leaps and bounds over what ChatGPT-3 had in some instances. Now, there's a lot of times when ChatGPT-3 and GPT-4 are very similar, and we don't need all the power of 4 for most of the things we do, and we'll get pretty much a same or similar reply. But 4 does have some very interesting things that I'll bring up to y'all in just a minute as well. Let's see. 6 says, it literally tells me what to do in a lawsuit. It doesn't always catch everything, but it's hardly ever incorrect. That's right. That's something I wanted to point out as well. And again, I'm very interested if you're using the new version 4 or this is all the stuff you're talking about is done on 3.5. So, like I was saying earlier, it's hardly ever wrong. We do want to fact check it. We don't just want to take everything or anything that ChatGPT says is fact. Always want to fact check it when we're doing something with money or legal or anything like that. But it is an amazing tool to help speed along our process. Fran says, I was referring to your idea of if we make Jewel, someone else is losing it. It's a PvP, the market, so to speak. Ah, yeah, right. Sylph, hey, how are you doing? Sticks, Rock, discussing fine line between individual responsibility and collective compassion. Yes, right. I don't know if we're going to have an answer for that, right? Man, someone leaving off a 0, I am right there with the edge. Any of the other circumstances, Rock describes my opinion, individuals to bear the responsibility for selling themselves short. Yeah, I would say, here's what I'd like to see at this point with some of our DFK tools, and maybe AI can help with this as well. And some of our programmers like DFK Today, or even some stuff that Born to Die is doing, or any of these other people that are generating some really useful tools for analysis, is more and better tools about hero price evaluation, perhaps. And then get our new players in the habit of using those tools for evaluating their heroes, and maybe even exploring the genes in such a way that they might not have even thought to explore on their own, right? So AI could help, or ChatGPT could help us do that, perhaps, if we filled it in with a lot more information. Maybe some of the tool developers that are developing right now could help provide those type of things. I think there's already a couple of tools that help a little bit for that, but maybe we could do a little bit more. Certainly when PvP comes out, I think a lot of people would want tools that really help them decide what heroes best to pick, because I have not been overly invested in all this information about PvP up until now, because for me, it's not out yet. I'm not playing it. Things could change. Things could be nerfed or buffed or anything. And I just don't have the time or the energy to expend that many hours into something that isn't completed yet, right? I'm just going to wait till it's completed, and then I'm going to go in and do the research needed to do the things that I need to do, right? And I'm sure that a lot of y'all, or some of y'all at least, like Bogside Chats or Grady or some of these other people that are exploring, like Wowie specifically, I guess, that are exploring some of the advantages and disadvantages. I want to say disadvantages, some of the advantages and combinations of heroes for PvP. I would want to go back and reference some of their stuff and hear a little bit more about what I would call the PvP experts talk about that kind of thing first, right? But in the meantime, I don't want to spend any money on something quite so speculative. Let's see. Stick says information asymmetry also arises when you said you were shilling one strat but secretly doing another, right? But I mean, I don't know about. I'm not sure I would really consider that asymmetry. I mean, see, this is what I'm talking about. A really fine line, because for me personally, I don't plan to ever play a manipulative game under this Rock 808 stream right here, right? I've thought about starting another stream where I could have video content that might be a little bit more DFK related and engaging as a member of a guild. In which case, maybe 90% of the things that I say you could trust, but you might not be able to trust everything because I'm in a guild in that realm or in that YouTube channel, and I might be doing things specifically to trash talk or to mislead or misinform something. But I've already made a very firm decision to not do anything of the sort on this channel, right? Not that anyone should believe me even saying that necessarily, right? But that's just the way that I've decided. But that wouldn't stop anyone else from doing other things or even getting into a position where they might not intentionally say something bad. But as an example, I mean, any one of us content creators who's playing a game could potentially even slightly misdirect something in favor of their guild. I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't be, if it's a slight misdirection, or what if it's even the fact that a content creator doesn't mention something. And I think we have some content creators that are already doing some things like that, where they might not be mentioning some things that they're doing in the very first moment that they discover things, but a week or a month later, then they say, oh, wow, I've been doing this for the last week or the last month, and it's made me so much money. Of course, once the content creator says that, then those dynamics change so much that oftentimes it's difficult for normal people to jump in on that. Maybe, the price spikes up. I remember specifically Grady one time on Ogre stream talking about the price of tiers. And in no way do I think that they were trying to mislead or pump the market or anything like that. In absolutely no way do I think that. But we did absolutely see the price of tiers pump during that stream. And it wasn't their intention to do that, but I mean, somebody might be a little remiss to just, what if Grady or Ogre did end up selling for something on something like that? I don't think in no way do I think that they would do something like that, but it could be possible that someone would do something like that, right? And that's maybe even a little bit more diabolical than even what I'm considering, something being even more of a slight misdirection or even making money off of something for a week or a month before you tell the rest of everyone else. And I don't think there's any problem with that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that that's a problem. I'm just saying that could be a form of some kind of advantage as well, right? Which I think is perfectly acceptable myself. Let's see. Wow, that would be a nice experiment. Wow, we info into ChatGPT. Yeah, Daredevil. I think that is really going to be cool. And I'm kind of waiting a little bit more on PvP to come out before I actually do something like that myself. Somebody else could early if they wanted to, but I think that would be cool to try to kind of look into. Six says ChatGPT4 is probably a lot better. My main point is that industry-specific applications of AI, I think, will be more powerful. Yeah, and I agree with that too, Sticks. So absolutely, I think that industry-specific AI, like imagine a chatbot that is filled with a bunch more very specific stuff on law, definitely would have a lot better. And just the fact that this chatbot right here does seem to be very limiting. Like if I asked it about investment advice, it's going to deny that. Or if I ask it like how to build a bomb, it's going to deny that. It's going to say there's a lot of other things. Like I even asked it one time about COVID and some stuff about that, and it made some other very interesting comments about that as well. I also asked about the number of genders that it thought that there were, and went on to talk about gender equality and so on, and gender being on a spectrum. And I don't know how y'all feel about that, but I think that different people, and it doesn't even matter how anyone feels about it. The point is that the chatbot responded in a specific way that not everybody might agree with, right? And so for those type of things, I would say that the bot we have right now is fun. It can be very, very useful, but we also have to be aware that there might be some things that we've just got to double check, and our own human sanity check applied to the results for that. So just keep that in mind. And definitely, if you're dealing with financial or legal stuff, I'll even say again, absolutely verify what supposed facts ChatGPT might be saying or stuff like that. Let's see. Definitely asymmetric. You're doing the secret strat. Other people don't. If the secret strategy capitalizes on the advocate strategy, that's cheating. I'm not sure I agree with that necessarily. If they're unrelated, no problem. So let me see if I've got a better understanding. And it's okay for you and I to not agree on this, if we are indeed not agreeing. But let me see. You're doing the secret, like, so if I know that I'm doing a secret strategy and other people don't realize I'm doing the secret strategy, if that secret strategy capitalize, so again, in a game like poker, I don't know if that would be looked at as cheating, right? But I guess at that point, for a fact that you're in the middle of a poker game, right? And so you wouldn't expect anyone to be honest in the poker game. So to what extent would we apply people involved with DFK, right? Certainly the game developers, I think we can and should assume are going to be, they're going to be honest. They're not going to take advantage of information that they know that we don't. I think they've shown that already quite well. I guess we shouldn't be complacent to think that that might never happen, but I think most of us at this point recognize that it's highly, highly unlikely that anyone on the dev team is doing anything nefarious or taking advantage monetarily of the players, right? So having said that, I would say probably most of us doing content creation, at least those of us involved right now, are probably looked up to in a certain way where we might be seen, or our streaming content might be seen as quote outside of the game, right? Where if I say something, then everyone assumes that I'm not playing the game at the moment and that you could more thoroughly trust what I'm saying. And I would say for all the content creators so far, that's true, right? I don't have any information that proves that, but I feel that way already. But it wouldn't stop someone from coming in and doing something where they have a plan. All right. Just be careful, guys. Maybe that's what I'm getting at. Just be careful and yeah, always question things. All right. So Six says, yeah, I think I was going more diabolical with it than you intended. Oh, yeah, no, I think that that's a really good point, Sticks. We could, but and I don't want to do this right now either, but I know for sure that we could speculate and theorize on super diabolical strategies. Maybe that would be an interesting topic to cover in some stream as well, just for those of us that might not be aware of like how intense this could get. And I wouldn't want to, I don't really want to do that right now because I don't want to create a video that potentially puts DFK or any game that we're trying to build up into a potentially bad light. And I feel that if that video is made right now, that uh, especially for new players that didn't know the ecosystem and all this kind of stuff, and even maybe to some players that had been in long term, that might have a tendency to be a little bit more suspicious and like have some trauma around some stuff, that maybe it would start to produce some uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Paranoid type of feelings coming from within the community. And I absolutely would not want to do anything like that right now, seeing as what's on such a fragile thing. And I definitely would um, feel that that is an okay thing to do once we have a more global community. Like, let's say that China has a guild, or even something like Yield Guild Games comes in and starts doing a bunch of stuff in DFK. Well, if Yield Guild Games starts to make a big deal about DFK and they are in here ravaging what I consider y'all, my friends, and they are, they've been doing gaming and NFT gaming and strategy with their guild so much on how to get the most money. And of course, if they are winning the most money out of some game, then obviously they're taking it from other people, right? And so at that particular point, I would probably feel it's a really good idea to make a video about that content, because I wouldn't want y'all, my friends, to be taken advantage of or potentially fall into a trap that somebody else might be laying, and they might have less scrupulous things. And so in that particular case, I definitely feel that a video talking about or really getting into detail about some of the diabolical strategies would be much more interesting. But like I said, for now, don't want to talk about it. But we do want to be at least aware of it, right? Grady was wilding yesterday. Grady is always wild, right? Let's see. After party was lit. That's cool. Grady's in the house. Let's see. I think at times poker is probably a different animal. It's clearly understood. Cutthroat game of deception that is part of the game. Misleading as a whole part of the game. Yeah, absolutely right. So I agree with you there, Grady. When you sit down at a poker game, you know from the get-go. But see, this is something that I think we need to be aware of. And I don't want to focus on this potential negative too much, right? So maybe we want to get off the topic pretty soon. But it could be said for some of us that we're always playing the game, right? I could easily see that in a game that like DFK or an NFT game or something like this, or even let's say the stock market. We could even take the stock market as an example. Let's say that there was only 100 people ever investing, or maybe 1,000 people ever only investing in the stock market. And you had direct communication with those 1,000 people in the stock market, right? Just, and so those people in the stock market. Well, it's a continuous game and we're always playing, and there might be somebody. In fact, you could potentially even say the stock market is being played that way right now. Maybe not by individual people like you and me, but companies where there might be media, misinformation leaked to the media on purpose to do something, or maybe a government is covering up or injecting bad information into SBF to cause the collapse of FTX, or who knows what it could be. But you have these massive entities, could be humans or groups of people, that are manipulating the global economic market. Always a game. It's always being played. Right? So again, I don't want to get DFK topics derailed into something so dystopian. But where some people that come into any NFT game, where do they draw the line? Right? Where would somebody else? And I'm not saying anybody here in chat right now. I think we're all good people. But somebody new comes in the space once we get on a bull run again. They want to make some money. How do we know where somebody else draws the line in what is they consider playing the game and what's not? And I would say some people could very, very easily be playing the game all day, every day, just like the stock market. Right. Anyway, enough of that. I don't even want to talk about that anymore. So let's move on. Let's see. So we're going to skip that stuff. Grady, I definitely appreciate your input there. I definitely agree with you 100% on these things that you're saying, but we're just going to move past this topic for now. Yeah, transparency of the team has gotten a lot better. I absolutely agree with that. Yeah, I think our team is amazing. Yeah. Let's see. Steve says, this is do your own research. So it's important you have a conviction in your beliefs. So make sure you've done your due diligence. Absolutely true. Provost Labs, have you made any progress in the top-down like game you were building? I have not really made a ton of progress in that. I've been sidetracked with a couple of other things. Thanks for asking, Bravos Labs. I do, for those of you that didn't catch on, I was working on a little bit of a kind of a top-down game for DFK. It's not really much at the moment, but I am hoping to make another game using the NFTs and the blockchain for DFK and all that kind of stuff. It's not going to be anything amazing. I don't expect that a lot of people are going to play, but it is going to give us a little bit of something else to experiment with. And my main purpose of doing that is to show that ChatGPT can help us build those games, right? Which I thought was really interesting. For example, can you show me can you show me an HTML page that displays a game grid on the screen, 20 by 20 in size, right? And here it says, I can't directly display an HTML page, however, I can provide you with the HTML code, which is exactly what I wanted. So even though I guess I misspoke a little bit, it kind of knew what I was talking about. So it creates the heading for that. It creates the style for that, and it shows this grid. Now, this is just the grid. This isn't really any part of the game itself. Now, can you add a way for the arrow keys to move an avatar on the map? And now it's going to get really intense, right? So it goes into all of the, it gives me all that same information again. It should give me some JavaScript. Yeah, here we go with our script. And it provides all of this JavaScript that does all of this kind of stuff. And so we could copy and paste this. In fact, if I get some output, maybe I'll go ahead and do that for y'all right now. So it even describes a little bit. This includes the JavaScript to do all this kind of stuff. I'm going to go ahead and just copy and paste it. So what did it give me? Did it give me something that's even functional, guys? Let's just take a look. I'm going to copy and open up a terminal window here where I've already got access to my website over there. And I'm just going to say, paste that. And let's write that file. Did I write game22.html? All right. So let's come back over to a new page, rock808.com/game2.html. So here's this game board. That's not quite the game that I wanted. Game 22. Another game. Like that did not give me a very good output right there. I'll need to see what's going on. But that does bring me to this, which is a game that I've made on a 20 by 20 grid. And I have a little character that goes around. It's blocked by these gray walls and so on. And ChatGPT helped me to create that from its stuff. So I would need to spend a little bit of time seeing what I did wrong. Can you be sure this game is played on a 20 by 20 grid where I can move the avatar? Maybe we just need to specify a little bit more. Also, I will say, oops. Says it's already going to do that. It will display a game on a 20 with a red avatar in the top corner. Oh, can I move that around? I don't see that working. All right. That doesn't seem to work. I only see a single box in the upper left. So it's going to try again. Well, it's doing that. Let's come over through here and look at chat. Let's see. Bravo says, as I said, I have a set of sprites ready. Oh, awesome. Bravo Slabs. That's pretty cool. Did not know you had a set of sprites. We would certainly be interested in taking a look at that. It's been days since I've touched Kaboom. Yeah, Darrow Evil. I was thinking about, it's been days since I've touched Kaboom either. This game that's created here, wherever it is not done anything with Kaboom. This was just GPT chat with some text prompts, me telling to put this thing, and I uploaded a little animal icon and that I grabbed off the web and stuck it in there. But it would be very interesting to take the code for Kaboom, put it into here, and then modify or use GPT chat from that point too, right? So I think that would be kind of interesting. Let's see. So here is a little bit more again. I don't know if this is really going to work either. This does not look nearly as complete as the other game that I've been working on. But let's paste this in here anyway. Control C and paste. Right. Oh, that's because I'm calling it chat GPT-1.html. Oh, still not doing it. I don't want to take up a lot of time right now to go into why this isn't working. I guess maybe I should, because it's not a very good example of what I'm trying to show if it doesn't even seem to be able to do this properly. So let me catch up in chat for a minute. Did you see the DFK tweet? Maybe initial PvP testing released tonight? Oh, wow, that's cool. And TuneFed gives us a link here as well. So go off site. Yeah, we can do that. Let's see what they have to say. DeFi Kingdoms. Is this the right link? Oh, just the fact that they've got this picture up there and you feel that that might be an indication about playing. That could be interesting. Yeah, I might not have seen the screenshots that y'all are talking about from the game testing. I did see Grady's stream the other night, and I seem to remember there might have been some content that Grady had on his stream about that. In which case I did see it. I just don't remember a lot about it. But it would be cool if we got a release today for some of that stuff. I'd be super excited. Photo referring to the same thing in the tweet, seems. Yeah. And today is the normal release day. Absolutely true, TuneFed. That is true. All right, so get back to a couple of other things that I wanted to explore with ChatGPT. Some of this stuff might not be particularly DFK related, but I wanted to pass it along to y'all as well. If y'all wanted to start exploring, there are some very interesting things that that I've discovered, and not everyone might think of the same type of things that I think about. And of course, I might not think about some things that other people do. And so I'm always interested to see what other people prompt ChatGPT with. But let's put in something here that I did come up with a couple of days ago, and I thought was a very interesting concept, or something to keep in mind. I say, let's research a new story about a murder mystery, and let's first do some planning. We'll say that there's 5 cities in our story with names like Arlington, Bastrop, Clarksville, Dallas, and so on. And we'll say Victor was murdered in Arlington at 10:45 p.m. And I'm not going to read all of this, but ultimately it talks about other people, the potential suspects. Betty lives in Bastrop, 160 miles away, and so on and so on. She was last seen in Bastrop at 9:32. And it goes in and talks about all these different people living in these different cities and when they were last seen. So I ask it, who could have killed Victor and why? And I ask, are there any other variables we need to consider? So I'm hoping that it can do some reasoning based on distance and times and all this kind of stuff for me, right? So let's see what it has to say. So here it says, was Victor's murder premeditated or crime of opportunity? Was there anyone else who had a motive? And so on, such a business partner or whatever. So those are some things right there. I noticed that it didn't give me information about who might have killed him, just some other things to consider. So that would be a little interesting. Say, based on the information above, who could have killed him? Let's see how it's going to answer. All right. So, however, we can analyze the alibis of the four individuals mentioned in the scenario to see if any of them had an opportunity. Betty was in Bastrop at this time, which is before the murder occurred, so it's unlikely she was involved. Carl was in Clarksville, which is several hours before the murder, so he also seems unlikely, and so on. So this is what I'm getting from GPT 3.5. And I would say that if we notice that Clarksville, or that Carl lives in Clarksville, which is 200 miles, and he was last seen at 5:03, and if the murder happened at 10:54, how difficult would it be to go 200 miles in almost 6 hours? I would say that's pretty reasonable. And so Carl would be one of the likely suspects, maybe some other people as well, but certainly Carl. And so I don't really feel that this chat version has given me too good of an answer. Carl was in Clarksville at this time, which is several hours before the murder occurred, so he seems unlikely to be involved. It's not even taking into consideration that the murder was actually in Arlington and it's such and such a distance, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to take that same bit of information, that same prompt, and I'm going to start a new chat, but this time I'm going to start it with Chat GPT-4, which is better. With Chat GPT-4, I've only got 25 messages every 3 hours, so I don't want to waste it, but I am going to use it for this demonstration that I'm showing here. We're going to do exactly the same prompt. What is it going to tell us? To create a compelling murder mystery, we need to focus on several factors, motive, all this kind of stuff. And it gives me some ideas for motives, jealousy, revenge, alibis for these characters. They were last seen in these respective cities, but we need to consider whether they could have reached Arlington to commit the murder. So at least this AI knows that that is possible. Consider their mode of transportation and the average time to travel. Evidence, red herrings, timeline, all that kind of stuff, which I thought was really interesting. And part of what I want to get at here, again, if we try to think of this a little bit more in terms of DeFi Kingdoms, if we are going to want to be creating comics or stories or something based on DeFi Kingdoms lore, then we could easily get inspired and plug in some of these different ideas for things about our story and timeline, and that might even inspire us to go in a new direction that we hadn't even thought of before. So here's something where it's giving the consideration based on times and locations. Again, GPT-4 doing way better than GPT 3.5, which had shown earlier. So here, Betty was last seen in Bastrop at this time, 160 miles away from Arlington. If she were to drive an average speed of 60 miles an hour, she would need approximately 2 hours and 40 minutes to reach Arlington. This means she could not have arrived in Arlington before 12 a.m. midnight, making it unlikely that she killed Victor. Carl was last seen in Clarksville, 200 miles away, with an average speed of 60 miles an hour. He would need 3 hours and 20 minutes. This means he could have arrived in Arlington around 8:23, giving him enough time to commit the murder. That is what I want to get at right there. So in this particular case, GPT-4 is much more capable of doing these deep level reasonings that GPT-3 has been doing. And keep in mind that we've been doing all this stream so far with GPT 3.5. But now, when we need a deeper level of reasoning, we can pop over to GPT-4 and get that deeper level of reasoning, which does outperform ChatGPT-3 in a lot of different areas. But right now, since we only have a limited number of chats that we can ask in a certain amount of time, I don't really want to waste that, or if you're getting into this as well, you wouldn't really want to waste that too much, given the time and distance and so on and so on. So here's something else. While we're in GPT-4, let me also give you a little, something else, just while we're on this topic. I want to show you another very cool thing that we could do. Let's say, what if the setting was medieval Europe, right? So Europe. So you couldn't drive a car 60 miles an hour if the setting of this murder was in medieval Europe, right? So how does that change things? If the setting was medieval Europe, we would need to make some adjustments to the story, like taking into consideration the historical context, transportation methods, social norms of the time, and then it goes to all of that kind of stuff: horses, feet, maybe boats. I've seen something about boats before, and so on. So very interesting that the setting, like imagine a futuristic setting where someone might have some kind of teleportation or, beam me up, Scotty type of thing to be able to do that. And then that way, any of those people could have gotten there in time with those time frames, right? So just by telling GPT chat to use these type of settings, that could potentially drastically change our story and all that kind of stuff as well, right? Let's see. Something else that I'll ask. Um, we've got 25 messages that we can say for GPT-4. Let's do another one to kind of show y'all some stuff. One of the things that I would say here is we could do something. We could combine prompts. Is something else that we can do with GPT-4. So write me a short poem about DeFi Kingdoms. Oops. New chat, GPT-4. Write me a short poem about DeFi Kingdoms. Also, show me the last freeze day in Austin, Texas. According, well, let's just see if it can do it just based on that of the year in Austin, Texas. And then also maybe what are the top sci-fi movies of 2020, right? And so what I'm trying to point out right here is, if we only have a limited number of prompts to give it in a certain amount of time, it's possible that we could take advantage of combining things into a prompt a little bit more. So here we've got a nice little poem about DFK. We should have the last freeze day in Austin, and then the top movies. We'll see if that comes out. While it's doing that, let me catch up in chat. Have the team addressed Jade being close to 1 cent USD? Oh man, has it dropped? I think the last I knew was it was 4 cents or something. Has it really dropped to 1 cent? I mean, that's the bear market. I'm not even surprised at that, to be honest. Let's see. I'm not even sure they need to address the problem. The way to address the problem there, I feel personally, is I think they've got their tokenomics all good. They spent a lot of time figuring all that out. I think the issue is get a playable game out there, which I know they're working on, and I don't, it's coming out maybe today even, right? So it's going to happen, but that's the issue, or that's one of the biggest issues. And then once we have a playable game, I feel is a great time to start doing a lot more recruiting and advertising of, now that we have a fun game, here we have a fun game, come and play it now that we have that. I have not been feeling overly energized to do a whole lot of blitzkrieg advertising when we don't even have a game yet. I mean, I find a lot of the stuff in DFK fun already, right? I think a lot of y'all do too, or you wouldn't be here right now. But I think most people would not consider what we have now a game. as much as Fortnite or Warcraft is or something, right? But those type of things, once we have that happen, once we have a game and we can advertise and we start to get more people excited about the game, then I think that the tokenomics are going to automatically solve themselves. So I'm not overly worried about that, Bravo Labs. What's the latest data GPT4 has for like GPT-3? Darrow Evil, it's also exactly the same date, September of 2021. So GPT 3.5 and GPT-4 are all based on exactly the same data. The only thing, or the only difference, I think, is that GPT-4 has been more deeply tuned. Right. So we're still not going to get anything past that date. But as you can see, it has deeper reasoning skills for some reason, which I haven't really looked into why. I'm not even sure I care why myself, as long as it's providing this great output. So here in 2020, sci-fi Thrive top films were Tenet, Dune, Invisible Man, and so on. So that's some interesting stuff. I also noticed, though, in here, as for Austin, Texas freeze, the last day varies. If you please check your local weather year by year. For Austin freeze date, what is normally considered the last frost day? I'm going to see if it can check the almanac. That's really what I wanted to do. I wanted it to look at almanac information and give that to me. But a person might not be smart enough to think that an almanac might have that information. I was trying to see if ChatGPT would just kind of infer that automatically and throw that out there. Typically around March the 1st. However, it's important to note the weather conditions vary from year to year. Yeah, it's always a good idea to check the weather forecast. Absolutely. So that is good. In the last 100 years, what's the latest date Austin has had temps below freezing? I think that would be a good thing. Going to do that for us? I'm surprised it's saying it can't provide us with the exact dates. It should be able to. Oh, again, it's telling us because it only has information up to September 2021. This is maybe a good example of when and where I think that there could be some improvement. And sometimes you have to kind of wrangle the chat output to forego it. I mean, it seems almost hell bent on saying that we need to check our own sources and don't rely on it. Well, dude, you can. I know that it has the information, or I should say. Maybe it doesn't, but I'm pretty sure it has the information on that. Maybe it doesn't have the information for weather in all parts of the world, though. Come to think of it, it's possible that it wouldn't have that. Let's see. Can you, what places, let's say I didn't know about an almanac, what places could I check to find that information? Let's see. Ready for fighting some test dummy blubs. Awesome. Let's go. Thought Dune was released in 2021. I don't know if it was or not. Could double check that if we want. In fact, let's do that while it's completing out. When was Dune released recently? Was scheduled for a 2020 release, but it was delayed. And it had a release on September the 15th of 2021. There you go. And didn't that oh yeah, I did ask for 2020. Again, because of the cutoff date for this data was right at September of 2021, maybe it got a little confused on that. But that's another good example why we should always fact check some things that it says that might not be 100% correct, right? So here it talks about as far as where could I find the information if I didn't know how to check for the last 100 years. So we have some stuff here. It even gives us some links. Again, I would be hesitant to click on links that ChatGPT says. I've heard potential possibility of it hallucinating and you don't really go to the website that it kind of seems to be sending you to. Looks like these websites are okay. And I think if I look in the lower left, it looks like it will take me to that. And I can click it just to prove right here. It looks like it's working fine. But again, I wouldn't recommend just clicking on those links directly. See, if someone wanted to play DFK, what website would they go to? DeFiKingdoms.com. Looks good, right? Again, I would really not suggest clicking links, especially that deal with crypto and NFTs and Web3 from ChatGPT. Always use links that you've confirmed yourself first. Let's see. Let's see. TuneFit says it's because you're trying to include the last 2 years. Oh, that is true. So maybe if I were to ask it, what is the date right now? It does know that it's the right date. So even though it doesn't have information, it's still assuming that I'm going back. So what we could do is we could say using only the information from 1980 to 2020. What is what date is generally considered the last frost day in Austin? See if it can do a little bit better with those specific dates. Come on, give me a date. Give me a date. Sometimes it will anyway, even though it says it can't do information. It'll be around March the 1st. Actually think might be a little bit later, but some things are really a lot better. Last frost day for Austin, Texas. Some things are just better for Google. Austin's first fraud date is 11/5, and last fraud date is February the 17th, is what this says. I would be a little skeptical of that. I do think it's sometime in March and not in the middle of February. Absolutely. Maybe I need to spell it right. Frost date for the last 20 years. So here it talks about the Farmer's Almanac. That's good. And unfortunately, I don't get too much more there. That same thing. Texas, the end of February. Yeah. I think I'd push it back a little bit more just to be safe, but that's not the point of this. Point is to see that we've got some stuff going. All right. Let's see here. All right, so there were a few other things on this stream that I thought I would talk about. One of them is go back and start a new chat. Get back over here to Chat GPT 3.5, and let's ask it a couple of other things. Something that I might also want to know if I was writing a comic for DeFi Kingdoms or a story about the lore. Maybe I'm not a very good story writer or teller, and I don't really know how to go about that. So maybe I'm going to say, how would I write a good prompt to get the most human-like story out of Chat GPT? Let's just see what it says. Remember, we saw a video on this earlier. Let's see what it says about itself. Make it specific. The more specific your prompt is, and I will say that that is true. Give as many details as possible. That is also true. Use emotion when you're talking about your prompt. Keep it realistic. Give context. And I do think that what I've seen, here's an example. So it gives an example. Here's an example that incorporates these elements, right? And so it has this nice big long prompt rather than just a simple little thing that you might type into Google search. We've got this huge thing. Write a story about a young woman who's moved to a new city for a job. She's excited and blah, blah, blah. So we might say, let's use that same prompt idea to come up with a prompt for DFK and traveling across the land continent in search of adventure, right? And so we could see a little bit about that kind of stuff. Pure Evil says, do you know what the difference between the prompt and completion in ChatGPT? So, Pure Evil, can you be a little bit more specific on what you're asking there? Do I know the difference between like prompting it and completion? Like, are you saying how to prompt it to get it to reply in a certain way, or just ask it to complete? Like, I could maybe give it part of a story and ask it to complete the story. Is that what you're suggesting? Like, here's the story that I've already written. Here's half the story. Go ahead and complete the story for me. Maybe there's some aspect of this I don't understand. Is there in GPT APIs? Oh, it's there in GPT APIs. I'm trying to integrate the work. Oh, so I have not played with the APIs from ChatGPT, so I don't really know what that might be or how that might interact. I'm supposing that in the API, the prompt would be something like me just typing what I'm doing here would be a prompt. Completion, I don't even know. Yeah, I don't know what the difference would be, but that might be something that we would just ask ChatGPT, right? Just ask it. Can you tell me the difference between a ChatGPT prompt and completion as it relates to the GPT API, right? That's what you want to know? Yes, I'd be happy to explain the difference between a prompt and completion in the context of the GPT API. A prompt is a starting point or input that you provide to the GPT API to generate text. The prompt can be a sentence, a paragraph, or even longer piece of text that provides a context for the AI to generate the output. The prompt is the text that you provide to the API as an input to generate the response. On the other hand, completion is the output or response that the GPT API generates based on the prompt that you provide. Oh, okay. Well, completion is just, so I think this is the prompt and this is the completion, right? In other words, completion is the generated text that follows the prompt and provides a continuation of the story, an answer to the question, or any other text of output. Yeah, so there you go. I don't know what it is, but now I do. And again, I wouldn't take this as 100% absolute fact, but it sounds good enough for me. And if I wanted to confirm that, I would probably go to OpenAI website and research it using, their real documentation, right? But I'm going to suppose, unless you report back in the chat that it doesn't seem to be this, then I'm going to suppose that's probably what it is. I'll hit the documentation. Okay. So, so dear evil, does that mean that according to what your experiments are, you do not feel that the completion is the response when you're dealing with the API? I want to confirm that for myself right now. Are you feeling that with your experimentation with the API, that completion means something different than the response that you get back? That's an interesting question. I want to open your minds, guys, with something a little bit interesting here. I have been interacting with a few questions or had a few questions that I wanted to ask the API and this, or not the API, but the chat. So here are a few prompts. Let me make sure that I'm in Chat GPT 3.5 because I don't really want to. Yeah, I am. I don't really want to take up my limited number of prompts. But for those of you that are just getting started with this, I found some very interesting things um, that I want to share that might inspire y'all to do something else. One of them is write a response to this as if it was written by Agatha Christie. So, my mother is very interested in murder mysteries and stuff like that. And as I'm introducing her to ChatGPT, I wanted to kind of give her some inspiration that makes sense to her and that she might be inspired by. So here's an example. I've given her a few examples to type in as prompts, which I think could help out other people as well. Write a response as if it was written by Agatha Christie to hello, how are you? So if I am asking hello, how are you? Hopefully it's going to respond in a way that Agatha Christie, murder mystery writer, would. My dear, I'm delighted to make your acquaintance. I'm quite well. Thank you for asking, and so on. I do not know a lot about Agatha Christie's style of writing. My mother does. And so I'm sure, or I hope, that this would be in Agatha Christie's style of writing. It sounds like it is. I mean, it's not in ChatGPT's normal style for sure. All right. Do you have any questions regarding comments or novels, or perhaps you are seeking advice to writing a project of your own, whatever the case may be? I'm happy. So what we're doing here is we want some output in a different style of writer. Can you rewrite that same output as if it were from Gene Roddenberry? Greetings, my friends. It is a pleasure to hear from you. As a creator of science fiction, I am always fascinated to the ideas and perspective of others. So, absolutely, it seems that it was able to rewrite the my question of "Hello, how are you?" as a response coming from Gene Roddenberry as opposed to Agatha Christie, right? One thing that I want to note with this is notice I had to write it in this weird kind of way, write a response to this as if it was written by Agatha Christie, because I tried it one time by doing something like pretend to be Agatha Christie in your replies to me. What is your next book about? Oh, it is writing that. There was a time when I asked it to pretend to be Agatha Christie, and it said, as an AI model, I cannot pretend to be a historical figure. And so I had to reword it to something a little bit different, and then I was able to get around that prompt. And so what I wanted to pass along to y'all was an interesting way to get around a restriction about trying to sound like somebody else. But it sounds like me saying pretend to be Agatha Christie this time did work. So maybe it's kind of hit and miss. Let's see. Daryl Evil says prompt and completion are two different APIs with different token rate. So I'm pretty sure it's different from what it just responded. That's very likely. And in fact, it probably just been hallucinating again. In case you're interested, the leaked screenshot I was referring to was this. Oh, awesome. Let's take a look at that leaked screenshot. Go to the site. Yeah. We'll see if I recognize it. I don't think I remember seeing this leaked screenshot. But it looks like we've got testing data flood seems to be closed. Can't wait. Club trainer. Sign in. Oh, man. When was this? This was yesterday. Yeah, let's go, TuneFed. Let's go. Okay, that looks good. This was live for just 5 minutes yesterday, probably trying to check it out. So if it was live, so if he wrote this yesterday and he's talking about this was live yesterday, the day before that, then I think that y'all are right in that if today is supposed to be the normal release day cycle, we very, very likely could have our something, at least something started with PvP today. That's super exciting. I'm going to keep an eye out for that for sure. Thanks, TuneFed. Thank you very much for keeping us abreast of the situation. Get back to a couple of our AI ideas here. One thing I also wanted to ask was something like, why did God punish Job? All right. And let's just see if it even knows, what it knows about that. I don't even know if y'all know much about the story of Job or whatever, but let's just see what it has to say. Oh my goodness. It's still writing in the context of Agatha Christie. My dear, that is a question that has puzzled many scholars and theologians, blah, blah, blah. According to the book of the Bible in Job, Job was a righteous man who suffered, blah, 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 including all of this kind of stuff. However, Job remained steadfast as for a guy allowed to endure such trials, we don't know. But the main point that I wanted to get across, or the one thing that I wanted to see when I asked that question, for one, God did not punish Job, right? There was Job was being put through a test to challenge his faith in God and what would happen. So it said that Satan challenged God to allow him to test Job's faithfulness, right? And again, y'all might not care too much about the religious aspect of this, but one of the reasons that I was interested in this was to see that for people that might not understand the context of some issue, if they think that something else happened, how would the AI respond to somebody who's asking a question where they don't seem to understand the situation of the event or the story? And I just wanted to see how would it reply? And certainly it seems like it replies in a pretty good way. I'm getting a kick out of the fact that it's still answering as Agatha Christie. How should we get it to answer instead? You can stop replying as Agatha Christie now. Thanks. I always feel like it's good to be friendly to the AI, even though it doesn't care about that at all. I understood, my dear. Oh no. Oh no. Let's ask it something else. So another question that I thought I would be interested in is, let's say that someone wanted to interact with the chat GPT, but maybe didn't know how to phrase a question properly. We could just say, what is a better way to word the sentence? Um, give me 5 possible story plots for um a comic series about DFK, right? Um, I'd like to make a better prompt for chat GPT, right? So what we're saying here is, I don't know how to create a good prompt for chat GPT that provides me a really good thing that even asks the question, give me 5 possible story plots for a comic book, right? I want something that goes into a lot more detail, or make a better prompt GPT that would make a more interesting story, right? So what we're doing is we're using GPT chat, hopefully, to come up with a prompt that would even make better output for it. And look at this. So it comes up with the prompt: write 5 potential plot outlines for a comic book series for DFK, a group of adventurers who travel across a magical realm in search of their treasures and adventures. Each plot should center around a unique artifact or location that the group seeks to uncover, and include at least one aspect, twist, or obstacle that must be overcome. The story should also feature a diverse cast of characters with distinct personalities, motivations, as well as vivid description. Okay, so I'm going to say, now apply that prompt. So just do it. Certainly, here are the 5 plot outlines for the comic book. We could have the lost city of El Dorado. DFK sets out on a perilous journey to find a fabled city of gold. El Dorado. However, they soon discover that the rival group of treasure hunters is hot on their trail and will stop at nothing to claim the treasure. As they navigate treacherous terrain and face deadly traps, DFK, and of course we would want to change the name from DFK to something else, would want to must also contend with internal conflict and unexpected alliances that threaten to unravel their mission. Here's the Isle of the Kraken and a bunch of stuff. A powerful monster threatens to destroy a nearby island. Enchanted forest, going through a mystical forest in search of a rare flower to cure a deadly disease. Tomb of the, you know what? That reminds me of the fact, or a time. I don't know if y'all have a lot of experience with Warcraft. I seem to remember, or World of Warcraft specifically. I seem to remember a time that when my sister was playing World of Warcraft, that the game devs introduced a disease or a virus or something like that. And I forget a lot of information about that, but it spread from character to character. And I forget why the game designers might have done that. Maybe it was to give a simulation of like a pathogen spreading through a community. and there was some scientific research behind that, and they were just using Warcraft, the Warcraft realm, as a way to test how a disease or a virus might spread through a community. Or maybe there was some other reasoning behind doing that. Maybe it was just for fun. Maybe it was just for new content to provide something new that the players didn't know about, but it didn't have any research. There wasn't any research behind that specifically, although maybe research had been taken from that later on. I don't know. But this little thing about researching a rare flower for a deadly cure kind of reminded me about that thing with Warcraft, and it even makes me wonder, wouldn't that be interesting if DeFi Kingdoms also eventually implemented something about um, pathogens or some illnesses that we might need to forage or collect certain things to help cure those diseases. That would be kind of interesting too. Let's see. There's another prompt idea that I thought was kind of interesting that I would share you all. What is a weekly meal plan for my elderly grandmother who likes ham, peas, carrots, bacon, milk, and I just give a bunch of things that she likes. If there was, I just wanted to keep it short, but if you've got something with a lot more uh, very specific information, then you could. And then I said, please include additional foods so she gets a well-rounded meal for a diet of a woman in her 90s, right? And part of what I want to show with this here is the fact that when I started this stream and I was mentioning that I'm starting to use ChatGPT for all kinds of things in my life, I'm not taking everything as gospel. I'm not saying that I'm not doing other research or anything like that. But I think that this is amazing, an amazing start for almost every aspect of my life. As an experiment, I'm trying to do a little bit more with ChatGPT than I normally would. So everything I can think of, I'm trying to remind myself, go and ask ChatGPT first. And I just want to see, right? I'm absolutely aware that I should not trust it. But at least it could give me a good start. So here, for well-rounded diet, woman in her 90s, we see breakfast, scrambled eggs, and all this kind of stuff. Also, something that I will mention right at this very moment. Remember, we're using Chat GPT version 3.5, and it's not as sophisticated as Chat 4 or GPT-4. So, eventually, we might want, or if we had something a little bit more serious, like maybe a diet plan, if you were actually going to follow that diet plan, then I might say, this looks pretty good. Let's go and ask Chat GPT for version 4 again with the same prompt just to see if it says anything different. And then even after that, I would probably do some Google research to, see if all of this stuff makes sense. But at first start, it looks like we've got some good ideas. And then what I could even say is, I even have it in here. So the next thing that I would do is say, now give me an itemized list. Now give me an itemized grocery list for those items with the amount of each item would need for 1 week's meals. So it comes back and says 2 carrots, 2 green 2 pounds of green beans, pound of broccoli, pound of mixed berries, nuts, and all this kind of stuff. So I get the grocery list for what I would need to do all of that stuff. And I think that is amazing, right? That I can get a meal plan and then a grocery list. And eventually, of course, I'll be able to tell the AI, just place the order for me and have it delivered to my house already. I think y'all saw the Google AI a couple of years ago, 2 years ago now, maybe 3 years ago now, where they had Google had a little thing where they were asking the AI to make a haircut appointment for somebody. So the AI contacted a place in the local area for a haircut and made an appointment for a certain time of a day, right? So imagine when something like that comes around for food delivery and all that kind of stuff too. Let's see. we could ask something like this, which I thought could be potentially interesting. Um, speculate, please speculate as to why Dr. Fauci first said that wearing masks for COVID was ineffective, but then later said we should wear them. All right. What do we have to say about that? Dr. Fauci initially stated wearing masks was not necessary for the general public during early stages of COVID. This was because at that time there was limited information about the transmission of the virus and how it spread. Additionally, there were concerns that widespread use of masks might lead to shortages for healthcare who needed them more. However, as more information became available, including evidence that the virus could be transmitted by individuals who were asymptomatic, Dr. Fauci and other health officials changed their recommendations to encourage the use of masks in public settings. This was based on the study for all this other kind of stuff as well, blah, blah, blah. So something interesting, I don't know, I don't want to get very political on this stream right here, but I have wanted to do a whole nother YouTube channel. If y'all want to follow me over to a new YouTube channel, I don't have it set up yet, but I'm going to set it up where it is very much more based on AI and Chat GPT and things like Blue Willow or Midjourney for art and video creation using AI. It's just going to be very AI centric, right? And I don't want to change this YouTube channel into too much of that in general. That's why I'm going to make a new channel. But if y'all are interested in that, one of the things that I want to do is I want to write, or I want to come up with a video. I'm not sure if it's going to be a live stream. I'm having a feeling like I want to actually make a more planned out video about it. But I want to ask, or I want to dive into details. One of my plans, I'm not going to do this right now, but one of my plans is to see here, Dr. Fauci has initially stated wearing masks wasn't necessary during the pandemic. This is because there was limited information about the transmission of the virus and how it spread. What I'm personally, what I really think is, I think it's this part. Additionally, there were concerns about widespread mask usage leading to shortages for healthcare. That's what I personally think his reason was behind that. Right? I don't think it really had anything to do with him being worried about limited stuff. And where I would lead down from this is I would go into further questions like, seeing that Dr. Fauci is a renowned worldwide doctor, what are the chances that he would not have any concern that not wearing a mask would be a good thing, or at least helpful, when a virus that you know nothing about is starting to spread, as opposed to the likelihood of him only being worried about the shortage of masks? And like I said, I haven't done any of that stuff yet. I'd like to do it on a video, but the idea is that I want to do deep dives into AI and really get to the nitty gritty on some of these maybe more interesting questions. And I have a feeling that we might get not always accurate information. Again, I think that the chatbot can be a little biased, but I still think it would be an interesting experiment and fun content to do about that kind of thing, right? And even get into some logical arguments with the AI about, why are you saying this and why are you saying that? Why would it even be, what's the likelihood of that actually being true, that he was saying that? Because personally, I think if there was a disease, and if the world had dozens and dozens of times the number of masks that we would need, I would think that he would just say, yeah, everyone go out and buy a mask and put it on. The thing is, we didn't. And so he didn't want to cause that panic and cause shortages. Right? It was the only reason. Anyway, be interesting to go into a deep dive for that. Let's see, something else that maybe Sergeant Filthy McNasty was talking about a little earlier, that and ways to make money. If I have $100,000, what are some good ways to invest that, considering I'm a 65-year-old woman with low risk tolerance and I'm currently own a house worth $350,000, it's paid off. I've got $5,000 worth of stock into Coca-Cola. This is another question that I feel would be a lot better answered by GPT-4 and not 3.5. But we'll ask 3.5 for right now and see what it says. So bonds, dividends, dividend paying stocks, annuities, real estate investments, so on. I'm not even sure that that is a, so Bravo Slab says Coca-Cola. Yeah. So the reason that this is a really good question. So why Coca-Cola, you might ask? And I would say, what are the top performing stocks? What we can't say are because it doesn't know about the current. What have been the top performing stocks that are recession proof? Question mark, right? So one of the things that I want to do is find out what stocks might be recession proof, right? And so here it comes up with consumer staples, healthcare, and so on. What are 5 specific stocks that have done the best? I don't know if that's going to be a problem. Maybe just have performed well, but done the best in the past through a recession. So Walmart, Johnson & Johnson, McDonald's, Procter & Gamble. All right. So in one of my previous ones, Coke did come out on top. What I might say is, now let's also consider stocks that pay dividends. I spelled that wrong, but that's okay. So here we got AT&T, Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, Pepsi, Verizon. And at one time, it had answered Coke. In fact, there was something that I saw a little earlier. What are the stocks that pay highest dividends? So we can see a little bit here. So what we might end up doing is, depending on how you wanted to go with that, again, it can't really give financial advice on things. So like when Bravos Labs is asking, ask GPT chat for Web3 investments, I know it absolutely won't give us that. So if we say, what are Web3 investments? What are some good Web3 investments? It's going to give us an issue with that probably. Oh, maybe it's giving us more information than I thought. So decentralized finance, non-fungible tokens, Web3 infrastructure, gaming metaverse, digital identity. Can you give me some specific companies and examples? Maybe this is where it's going to fall down. Oh, it won't. Still getting some output. Ethereum, Uniswap, OpenSea, Axie Infinity. So that's actually better output than I thought. Usually when I ask investment type questions, it just comes back with, I'm not going to answer investment type questions. So this isn't too bad. I mean, at least we're seeing specific companies right here. again, I would not take any of this information as something very reliable, especially for investment stuff, and maybe even more especially in Web3, because the data that ChatGPT has only goes up to September of 2021. So a lot has happened in Web3 and the markets in general since September of 2021, right? That's a huge amount of time. And so who knows what's going on with this stuff here? Yeah. And so Bravo Labs is saying it looks like ETH and Axie seem legit, but I would say in general, I mean, back in 2021, where it has its latest information, OpenSea might have been might have been seen as well. Chainlink probably was seen as well, also, right? So, again, there's no way, no one's going to have a crystal ball to the future. So again, anything that we're asking of ChatGPT should not be taken as something to follow directly. We should all do our own research. However, we can certainly use ChatGPT as part of our research, and maybe an easy way to find that information, or find information. Let's see. So let's even go into further. What are the growth rates of those items? What are the growth rates of those items? Let's just see what it has to say. Ethereum up around 100% in the last year. Uniswap protocol increasing from around 500 million to over 8 billion in March of 2023. This is interesting. What's going on here? It's giving me information from past 2021. How is that even possible? That's not able to even think about what's going on right here. Over 4,000 in March. Here we're talking about money, also billions in March of 2023. What is the date of your latest information? They just make a change? No, my cutoff date is September 2021. So how can you give me answers that include information about 2022 and 2023? So training data was cut off on September 23rd. However, I can make educated guess. So it's only guessing. It's only guessing at what the difference is between its cutoff date and where we're kind of at today, which is not good. So what we really want to say is, show the growth rate of those previous items, from Jan 2021 up to September 2021. Right. So it can look at historical data, and it should be able to see the historical data for that. So I would feel, again, I want to fact check all this, but I would feel that this is probably better information. Increased $700 from January 2021 to around $3,500. Growth rate over 400%, 250% for Uniswap. And again, Bravo Labs, I don't particularly like these questions too much because I don't know how much I can trust this, right? So if I'm trying to ask for some, a meal plan and a grocery list and that type of stuff, it's cool. It is good that I'm being inspired by these things, and then I could further do the research from there. But we need to be real careful with that stuff, right? Did you just unlock GPT, Bryce? No. No, I did not. It was, as it says up there, it was only making educated guesses. So basically guessing. So I had to reword the statement, right? To make sure it limited itself. Yeah. Right. Let's see. Something else that I might want to ask it right here as an example of how it could help your lives. What is an amazing and unusual recipe? So not only an amazing, but an unusual recipe for brownies. Make sure that we add some spice to our lives, right? So I want to help all of y'all out in the DFK community, my friends. So here, maca green tea brownie recipe. So it gives us all the ingredients for that. It gives us the instructions for all that. And now we have this great stuff. Then I might say, how could we do something similar, but only use vegan ingredients? Example. And so we have a rewritten thing for 2 flax eggs and so on and so on, right? Let's see. Let's put this in here. What would be a good gift idea for my 30-year-old daughter? I don't have a 30-year-old daughter, but just as an example, who likes cats, painting, growing plants, and chocolate, right? So let's say you're having problems finding a gift for, somebody, whatever. Ask you what some potential gift ideas would be. Well, let's see. A cat-themed painting set, a plant growing kit for all this other kind of stuff, succulents, chocolate gift basket, cat-themed accessories, an art subscription box for ongoing gift stuff, cat toy set, so on. If we wanted to make fine tune, say, oh, I didn't like any of those, I would prefer something else or whatever, then of course we could fine tune that output as well. I was thinking about spending $200. A cat tree scratching post, an indoor herb garden kit, chocolate tasting experience, paint by numbers kit, personalized cat portrait. Interesting stuff. So again, just kind of exploring a little bit about stuff that we could do there. Let's see. About this one that I had thought about. Please write an uplifting poem that can be inspirational to people going through depression. Right, and so we get a poem here. Now, let's make that about DFK players who are depressed about the weakened economy and down market of the game tokens. Let's see what it says. When the market seems to take a dive and every token feels like a loss to survive, remember that you are not alone and brighter days will be shown. It's true that times can be quite tough, and sometimes it feels like sometimes it feels like it's enough. But know that you are strong and brave, and better days are just a step away. In every challenge, there's an opportunity and every setback a chance for unity, and so on and so forth. Our nice little DFK poem helping us through the depression of the down market. For you are skilled and you are wise, and through the market may surprise. You have a resilience to overcome and find success in DFK's game's hum. So keep your spirit high and keep your goals in sight, and know that things will turn out right. For in your heart there's a burning light that can light up the darkest night. DFK, right? Let's see. Oh, and I types woot. Oh, seems like I just hopped in. Seems like that woot was inappropriate. No. Yeah. Talking about depressed game players and coming up with a poem, and here you are cheering it on. No, absolutely. Glad to have you in, man. uh, let's see. Here's another example of something we can be asking ChatGPT. How can I best organize my garage? It's a total mess, and I don't know where to start. Um, And so it's giving a bunch of things. Set aside some time, depending on the size and condition of your garage. Organize it, take everything out. Start by taking everything out of the garage, placing it in your driveway driveway or yard. Sort the items into categories, declutter, plan storage solution, install storage solution like shelves or whatever, and keep it organized. So we have a pretty good, step-by-step set of instructions. So plan to set aside a few interrupted hours or a full day to work on it. Take everything out at first, sort those items and whatever. This helps you see how much items you have in a certain category. You can declutter, take opportunity to get rid of some items, consider donating or selling those items. And so let's say we even wanted to go into more detail. What are some ways I could sell those items? And let's say that somebody didn't really know how to do that. Garage sale, online markets like Facebook, Amazon, eBay, all this other kind of stuff, Craigslist, and so on, right? Bunch of interesting stuff there. Let's see. I think that's all of the examples that I would want to show y'all right now from that. But as you can see, there's a ton of different things that could be helping our lives. And if we want to focus a little bit more on DFK, again, unfortunately, would need to copy and paste a lot of the maybe a lot of the input that we have from web pages into here to get what we want from DFK. What are good ways to make money with DFK? Let's just see what it knows already. So last time I asked it this, it didn't really have a good answer because, again, it just doesn't know enough about DFK. Playing the game, you can earn tokens by playing DFK. It almost sounds like the winning competitions within the game. It almost sounds like it thinks that there's already a game that's written. I guess in a way, we could say, summoning heroes and going on quests and all that kind of stuff is playing the game already. I guess you could say that. And in that particular case, could be playing that way and earning some money. Trading tokens, buying and selling in the DEX, absolutely. But of course, volatility is there as well. Staking tokens, holding DFK in your wallet, smart contracts, period of time, rewarding. But again, I think that it's just hallucinating and making up a lot of stuff here, even though these are valid points. I don't really think it knows too much about that. Providing liquidity is a good way, indeed. Participating in governance. I don't know if that's a good way to make money. If you hold a significant amount of DFK tokens, you can participate in the platform's governance by voting on proposals and making decisions that impact the game's performance and future. That is true, but I'm not necessarily sure that I would say voting in governance is necessarily a way to make money with DFK. But holding the tokens definitely, Jewel specifically, we are hoping that it's going to go up in value over time. And building on DFK, if you have development skills, you can build on top of the DFK platform and earn enough money. I think a lot of people are thinking about that. And I would say that's a really good and maybe interesting way to start thinking about it, especially in a bear market where we might not be getting a lot of money, or some of us might be feeling that we're having a lot more money taken from our wallets than we're getting back out. But developing games or other features or applications or interfaces or tools could all be very interesting ways to get a little bit of money from people. That could be playing your game or utilizing your interface or something like that, right? Owen Hype says, best element for duels. We can ask it that. Again, I don't think that it's going to know what is the best element for DFK duels. Now, I know you just came into chat, so you probably don't have a whole lot of idea of what we're talking about right now, which is fine. But one of the things that a couple of things we wanted to keep in mind. One is that the information that GPT chat has only extends up to September of 2021. So if duels were not created before September of 2021, then this chat would not know anything about them. But maybe unfortunately, it doesn't care that it doesn't know. And so it's going to start hallucinating and making up something that was hard to tell about the confidence level of its reply. So here it says, there isn't really necessarily a best element. Each has its own strengths and weaknesses. I would say that that's possibly true, although I'm not sure if I would say they each have their own strengths and weaknesses. It's just like a random element, right? um, That being said, it's important to understand the characteristics of how each element interacts with each other's. I don't think, well, that is true. That is true, right? So fire spells can deal damage, high damage and effective against nature spells like ice spells. I do think actually that's something about that is implemented. I haven't played a lot of duels, but I am pretty sure that I've seen a chart that shows how the elements interact with each other. And certainly things like earth and water and fire and water or something like that might interact with each other in a different way. And I forget where that chart is right off. But I do think that that's partially true. I'm not sure if the output of this is accurate, though, according to that chart. Water spells are versatile and can deal damage, heal, provide buffs. That's absolutely not true, right? So in duels, picking a card of water does not do any healing or provide buffs or anything like that, right? But they're weak against thunder. We don't even have a thunder element. So again, be careful when you're using this, and especially with DFK, since DFK, most of it has been coming about since after September of 2021, right? However, we could go to a DFK page and we could look at gameplay, maybe heroes getting started, combat. Is there something in combat? Nope. What about anything about duels in here? Can I search real quick? DFK duels. Oops. And so what I'm getting at for you, is we could copy and paste what we get from a web page in DFK, put that into ChatGPT where now it does know about it, and then we can ask it in for information and questions. I don't see here too much information about duels, so let's do this. Uh, Complete guide to DFK duels. So I'm just going to use Google and a Medium post. And we're just going to copy and paste. right? Happy doing. Control C to copy, and control. Here is information about DFK duels. Paste all of that. So it pastes all of that stuff. Thank you for adding additional information. Based on the details you provided, here are some tips on how to succeed with DFK duels. Choose your heroes wisely. Make sure to select heroes that complements your playstyle and has strong element affinity. So I do think that's probably true. So I think we want to have heroes that all match up in the same elements. At least that was true the last time I was playing duels. And I'll admit I haven't played duels in the last 1 or maybe 2 seasons now. But when I was playing duels a lot, like for selecting 3 and 9 heroes, it was much, much better to have them all be the same element. I don't know if that's still the same case or not. And also, we have to recognize that I don't know when this Medium post was written. Maybe we should check that. But it's only going to be making recommendations off of something from the duels from June the 15th. If duels have changed since then the information we're feeding it is wrong. Right? And so we might need new updated information. But we could put all this input in just from the website. And then if there was any changes, like minor modifications, we can make those changes after the fact. We could say, oh no, this isn't true. Do this other thing instead. And it could make the change. Or we could even copy paste this to a text file first, double check, read over it, make changes that we need, import it into here, and then get some analysis. Boost your stats and background. Boosting your hero stats and background can give you significant advantages and in the duel. So of course, you're going to be selecting the background that you want and the stat point that you want. Understanding the rules of each duel type, ranked matches, and so on. Pay attention to the stat and the background section. Master the element in comparison. Is there a good strategy that would help me win more often? It looks like it's pretty much the same thing, which is kind of what I would expect. I didn't really ask it anything too new. Practice regularly. I don't know. Is DFK Duels a game where you get better with practice? Maybe. I feel that I feel it's a little bit more like rock, paper, scissors in such a way that um, maybe there's some subtle ways that you can, if you play it enough, that you might be able to understand how someone might pick something and then the next thing that they're going to pick. And over time, you might be able to win those things. But I don't really know. Robus Lab says, bro, answer my question. Oh, I must have missed something. Sorry about that. Let's see. By the way, yeah, I missed your question, Robus Lab. By the way, I've been meaning to ask you, Rock, did you sell your sandbox land? Oh, no, of course I did not. I still own my sandbox land, 6 plots of land. And if not, what do you plan to do with it? You are now able to make PvP experiences and land deployment is near. That's amazing. Thank you for the update. I plan to do more with Sandbox once we can do more in it. I also I'm also waiting a little bit more for some of the hiccups to get worked out. So by that, I don't mean necessarily programming stuff. I'm talking a little bit more about interpersonal things. So a little bit more of the governance. I'd like to see a little bit more happening with the governance. And I don't want to go into details on all that. But yeah, I'm just waiting. Haven't sold my land, still waiting. Sandbox is going to be a big hit. I just got that on pause for a bit. Let's see. You would need to know the most popular elements, I suppose. Yeah, so that would be something too. Pick the counter. You need the data off the blockchain. Yeah. So what we could do is, I don't know if we can do that right now. Let's see. Can you show me 5 transactions from March on the Bitcoin blockchain? Let's just see if it can pull content from a blockchain, keeping in mind that it only knows about September and past. I do not have access. I'm not asking for real-time data, dude. That's why from the year 2021, I apparently was not obvious enough about that. Okay, so sure, now that I've given the year, here are 5 sample transactions from the year 2021 from the blockchain. So transaction ID, this, date, account. So again, we're not going to be able to pull direct information through ChatGPT, but we could go to the blockchain. We could go to DFK blockchain. We could highlight all of that, pull it into here, I guess, and paste transactions from the blockchain ourselves. We could even have a code writer, iOS code, or anybody else, Born to Die, somebody else is doing some code. We could even ask GPT chat, possibly. Let's see. Do you know? Maybe we could ask GPT chat to ask us to, or maybe we could have it write the code to pull the data that we need from the DFK blockchain. Do you know about the DFK chain blockchain on Avalanche subnet? I don't think it really knows that. I don't see how it could. So again, here I think that it's hallucinating. When it says DFK chain is a blockchain project built on Avalanche subnet, of course, I gave it that information up here. It might just be hallucinating based on what I've given it, which aims to provide a decentralized, secure platform for the DFK gaming community. Again, I think it's just hallucinating. Don't get too surprised. Blockchain is designed to support the creation and management of non-fungible tokens, blah, blah, blah. Again, its cutoff date of knowledge is September 2021. I do not think, and we can double check, when was DFK chain released? Now we ask Google, who does have real-time access, March the 30th, 2022. So there's no way, absolutely, that it could know about the DFK blockchain. So we could potentially ask it, can you show me the code to display 10 of the latest transactions from the Avalanche blockchain? Right? Let's see, as an AI language model, I do not have the ability to generate code or display, but in fact it does, and it I don't know what the deal is there. However, I can provide you with a general step-by-step to retrieve this. Here are some sample codes, Python, that retrieves the latest transactions on the Avalanche blockchain. And so here we go, importing the certain things that we need, getting those connections set up, and I don't know if this is all the code that we would need for that, but here is some sample of something, right? It's just a sample. We could ask it, because I have had it actually write really good code before, write the full code. you hear it again. It says an AI language model not able to provide full code solution that connects to the Avalanche blockchain. And that's very probably true. I don't think that we could expect, and I would never expect or even recommend that y'all try to get ChatGPT to write an absolute full-size program that does something. But if we can get a foundation to start from, then we can absolutely ask it for functions that fall into that. Can you write a function that pulls the last transaction from the Avalanche blockchain? So writing smaller pieces of code is definitely doable. And if we keep it in that, as far as the functions go, that generally is going to have a lot better results. So here we see a little bit about, setting it up, and here's our get latest transaction function. And this, I'm going to need to set up my chat stream so I can more easily copy paste code that it gives me. But this looks like something where possibly it is getting some of the latest stuff and then returning that information from the function. So what my point is right now, is that we could get it to create some code for us that deals with the Avalanche blockchain. And then rather than using like the Avox network right here, we could plug in DFK stuff and then maybe even look at the developer DFK information, or even just ask the community. So there's already a lot of community members who've been doing some programming here, and maybe get them to say, hey, I'm working on this piece of code. Can you, drop me a link, or can you share some code that you've used that, connects or whatever. And so that might be there. And then generally, the way to get information out is probably very similar across the different blockchains. There might be some differences that you would need to tweak for that, but at least this could be a potential good start, right? Let's see. So, in other words, what I'm getting at, is we could either have someone else write some code, give us a little bit more detailed, specific information just about duels that we're pulling from the DFK blockchain about that. And then we could feed that into ChatGPT to find the best dueling hero combination that's according to what's been going on recently. And then we could, or we could work with that, or we could ask another tool developer to maybe create something like that for the community. I feel like DFK Helper has kind of already done that, though. And of course, they're charging for their service, but man, I really do feel that their service is well worth the I think they have an option that's even as low as $15 a month or something like that. But absolutely, I think that it's well worth it to get the DFK Helper service as far as that goes. And it does do really well at DFK duels, right? It can send your heroes out on duels for you. So rather than doing something else, I feel like I would rather automate that process, and DFK Helper does an amazing job at that already. If you're trying to write your own tool for your own stuff, then I would say, yeah, check out some of the stuff here and kind of work on that a little bit. It'd be really good. Let's see. Yeah, sorry, I think GPK chat can do great stuff, but giving someone an edge in DFK duels probably ain't it. I would say that it's possible. We just need to make sure to ask the right questions. And absolutely, if we could get it to write some of the code for that, I mean, like I just said, DFK Helper is an automated tool that is actually doing that, right? So I know it could be done, and it would just be a matter of trying to figure that out ourselves and kind of rewrite what DFK Helper has done. For me, it's not worth my time because I'm already getting a great service through that, and I'm fine with that. I don't need to rewrite or remake the wheel. But if somebody else wanted to, they certainly could. The AI is hallucinating is my favorite phrase. Absolutely. The AI does hallucinate quite a bit. So how to hack Harmony Bridge? Oh, right. So I think I don't even think I want to type it into this, but I am aware that the developers of ChatGPT have put some limits on like not doing damaging things. So if you try to ask it like how to build a bomb or something like that, it's going to decline or deny or say that not. Now, I don't think that that's a good idea to do because uh, because I'm wondering if me just by asking it a question like how to create a bomb, even if I'm just doing it as a sample to say, hey, don't do this, or here's going to be the output, I don't know if that would flag my account in any specific way, like, hey, this dude's trying to create a bomb, even though I'm doing it to show that it's not gonna do that for you. So I don't even want to type that as in a sample, but I will say that in general, it's going to discourage you from doing potentially harmful things, as there have been, and I'm trying to find an example of something where I did type something in and it didn't want to answer me because it thought what I was doing was potentially harmful. I forget now what it was, but that would have been an interesting thing for me to make a note of and write down, because what I was trying to do wasn't harmful. Oh, I remember what it was. It was something about uh gender fluidity or something like that, right? So or no, it was something about stereotypes. Like I wanted to see what it had to say about stereotypes of a certain type of people, right? And like making a TV show about that. Because there have been some crazy TV shows out there that I feel kind of, I don't know if I want to say make fun of, but kind of do things based on stereotypes of people, and it's kind of interesting the way that they've plotted all that out. But the stereotype, if it was reversed, would probably, like most people in society would probably feel that there was is totally inappropriate to reverse that from what it was. And I don't even want to get into the details for what my specific thing was here, but I'll just say that it was reversed. And so what I was trying to get at with GPT is I was trying to get at, why is it okay for, I was trying to understand how GPT would reply, how it would answer if I tried to get it into a logical argument of why is it okay to have one thing that's acceptable, but when you reverse it across at like an opposite or different group of people, it becomes unacceptable, right? And I wanted to see how GPT chat would justify that or respond to that. And it kept continuing to tell me that the way that it would be in reverse would be enforcing stereotypes, and it would be emotionally damaging to people and all this kind of stuff. And I said, well, why can we do it this way and it's perfectly fine? And it was a really interesting conversation that I started to get into about that. But one of the lessons that I learned from that little exposure was that um, even with an AI bot like this, there might be some bias, or maybe I shouldn't even say might. There is some bias built in that we need to be careful of, and not, again, not take everything that we're getting back as an absolute fact, right? Because there could be some bias. So one of the questions that I had asked it before was something like, can you, or is there a way, or is it possible that you are providing a bias response? As an AI language model, I strive to provide neutral and objective responses of the best of my ability based on the information and instructions provided to me. Notice, information and instructions provided to me. So who's providing and those instructions, and what instructions and information is being provided? That's the first clue. I do not have any personal opinions based on biases. I aim to provide accurate, helpful information without favoring any particular agenda. However, it's also important to consider multiple sources of information and perspective. I say, all right, so now where or who provides your information, and is it possible for them to feed you only bias information? I think y'all know where this is headed, right? I am trained on a large corpus of data from various sources, including texts and articles and so on. My training data comes from a diverse set of sources as designed to be as representative and unbiased as possible. Already, I'm so personally skeptical, I don't even know if I can trust that. However, with any source of information, there is always a possibility of bias creeping in. While training data can be carefully curated to minimize the potential for bias, the content of input I receive from users may contain, so from multiple people, may contain some level of bias or subjectivity. It's important to critically evaluate information, including response unprovided, and provide to seek out multiple sources and perspectives when making decisions or forming opinions. So again, we could dive into it a little bit more, and I don't think that we want to spend the time to do that. But I would say that that would be another very interesting topic for me to delve into in a new YouTube AI related YouTube channel that I want to put together that will go down a lot more of these type of rabbit holes. Yeah. Which is a little unfortunate, but one of the things that it excites me for then is some of these AI models and some of the software is open source. And as more and more people start to grab a hold of the open source software that is going to allow us to train some more of these models, I think that what we are going to be able to do is, and the computer power in general just becomes more powerful. I think we're going to be able to either do ourselves, but more likely find a group of people that might have a less biased bit of information that we could pull from. Again, if you're not doing it yourself, and maybe even if you are doing it yourself, you need to be careful of introducing bias that you didn't intend to introduce, right? But as a good example of something, things like COVID, I think some people feel one way or another way about like how it was started. It would be interesting to see with deeper analysis. The part of the issue is I don't know personally if there was bias introduced into what was being fed in about the initial stages of something like that, and what the extent of a cover up or something might be. And I'm not really the type of person to get too deep into conspiracy theories, but I absolutely feel that the government could manipulate the population and the media for any number of reasons. And so I have a concern about that, right? There's been plenty of times when we've seen the news manipulating stories, or the government's manipulating stories to things. Anyway, Daryl Evil says, does DFK Helper automatically pick heroes for duels, or do you have to specify which heroes to duel? And Daryl Evil, the answer is that I think DFK Helper does have a way that if you wanted to limit the pool of heroes that you were using right now, because of course right now the backgrounds and all this stuff change, and you can't use the same heroes, I think, in a certain limited amount of time or so on. So generally these days we want to use a pool of heroes rather than hard code specific heroes. I do think the DFK helper does allow us to even hard code a specific set of heroes if we really want to do that. But also DFK helper gives us the ability to specify hero ID numbers to include in a pool, but at a much more general level, which I personally like to use. I don't like to go in to limit the heroes that would be used in duels, so I just let it look at my entire wallet, which is the default. I don't even need to do anything these days, where I used to have to go and pick out the very specific heroes. These days, I just say, here's my wallet, and it can see all the heroes I have in my wallet, and then it will pick the proper heroes that are the best at that particular time, and it's even good at picking what would be best at a specific time, I feel, right? I think I've had a conversation about that in the past. I can't verify it, though. The episode of Seinfeld that never ends. Right. Jennifer Lawrence movie where she bangs a shy son and the parents give her a car. Oh, yeah, yeah. Something like that, right? Where you have like an age difference where it's okay if an older woman is trying to go after a younger man, but maybe not the opposite or something like that. Yeah. So there's some weird stereotypes of stuff like that. And it's interesting that, or I found it interesting that the chat bot seemed to feel that one side of that was acceptable and the other side was harmful. Um, you know, I think if one side can be potentially harmful to some people, then it's probably harmful to both sides. If not immediately, then over time it would be. So if we continued to do something, then it would. And also, my personal feeling is, in that particular case, stereotypes generally come about based on some amount of truth, or there's some other reason that we generally get stereotypes for various things. And there's also maybe some other reasons why we as a society feel it's okay for certain stereotypes to take place or something. And I don't want to get into a full big discussion on that on this stream, but and I'm not saying that stereotypes are always good, but in general, there is a kind of hint of truth, or maybe truth is not the right word, but generally stereotypes are based on something that's been somewhat true, that has come about from that. All right, let's go ahead. What time is it? It's a little after 5:30. I've been streaming for quite a while now. It looks like 3.5 hours. So guys, this is what I wanted to do today. I'm really getting a lot more into ChatGPT. I'm trying to purposefully implement it, or at least ask it about a huge number of more things in my life. And again, I'm not taking anything for gospel. I'm not following it blindly. Absolutely, I'm aware that it can hallucinate, but I'm finding that I'm getting a lot more inspired, and I have a lot of very interesting things going on. In fact, look at this. The chat history came back. So I've got some chat history y'all can see on the side here of some projects that I've been working on for the last week or so. Things about DeFi Kingdoms and more. Murder mystery planning. It's something that I'm doing for my mom. A DFK overview where I'm plugging in a bunch of DFK stuff. Writing a DFK fantasy story that I want to kind of do a comic book for. Some kind of game about name forgotten. I don't even know what that is right off. DFK Hero, return on investment. So I'm trying to use ChatGPT to kind of help me with return on investment. However, I think that I've found that probably some people out there probably already have good tools that help with DFK Hero return on investment information. So this is more for me just to play around with. I think some people have already done a good stuff of that. Investing in Coca-Cola. Oh, this is, I'll open up this one real quick. So this is a conversation that I had about the Coca-Cola stuff. And as you can see right in here, or maybe this is something different. This does not look like Coca-Cola investment strategy. There we go. All right. If someone wanted to make $2,000 a month from investing in Coca-Cola, how much would they have had to invest in a year to get $2,000 a month? Please consider income and dividends for capital gains. And it would go into and give me a lot of information. And it took me a while to get to this point, right? So I wasn't able to get this output right away. It took me about 30 minutes to finally come up with a prompt, because the way that I was first asking for this information, it wasn't liking to give me the information about this. But eventually, over time, I steered it away. So $2,000 a month income from investing in Coca-Cola. How much would they have had to invest a year ago, right? So like, I'm asking for historical data and not investment advice is, I guess, one of the things I want to pass on to y'all. So if you ask it in such a way about historical data and not trying to get investment advice, you might be able to get a little bit more of the information that you're looking for. Please consider income from dividends as well as capital gains. And it looks like all we would need is something close to $300,000, I think. Here it says investors would probably this. I don't think that's right. Let's see. So this says $2,000 a month from the dividends. An investor would need to invest $800,000 for that. But then when we include the capital gains, then that brings it down to only 133,000. I think I would have to research this again. Tell you what, I don't want to take any more chat time. This would be something that I would definitely test on GPT-4. And part of the reason is because GPT 3.5 doesn't seem to do quite as well at reasoning. And I'm almost sure that the research that I did before came out to be the ultimate amount needed would be about $300,000, which takes into account the income from dividends and the amount from capital gains over the last 5 years before 2021 to have made that much money. So I'm not sure why it's saying 133 right now for this, but I thought I'd point that out. And notice that there's some other states. So here's here's another example where I might put in, show me or I'm trying to create a Linux shell script. This is just an example of something that checks and monitors disk space and emails me if the root or home partitions is running out of space, and it's going to check every 10 minutes. And so here's the code to do that. So I'm finding, this does work. And it's okay. I don't need to implement something like this in my own life. I've already got tools that do stuff for me. But the point is that it was able to generate a Linux shell script pretty quick and easy. And this type of code, because it is something simple and I can easily show on the screen, and I know a lot about shell scripting, that I can verify that it does work and so on. I've got a bunch of other things here, creating music, Dr. Seuss love story, which I was playing around with for another friend of mine that was trying to do something. Anyway, the idea is that it looks like now they've restored their chat histories, which is really good. And that way, as you're talking about different topics, you could save off the different topics. So anyway, that's what this stream was about. It's about coming into DFK and see a DFK fantasy story or something. Write me a fantasy story about DFK and so on. So I wanted to take today's stream, kind of talk about ChatGPT. I'm going to be doing a lot more with it. And I am going to create a new YouTube channel. If y'all want to follow me over there for some more AI and ChatGPT stuff. We're going to get into even things like Blue Willow, which is a free Discord channel that does kind of what Midjourney does, but it is free. And I think Midjourney currently has a limited number of prompts you can give it, whereas Blue Willow allows you to do infinite number of prompts. And as you can see here, Blue Willow does a pretty good job of it. And we'll get into more of this in some of the other streams that we do talking about the AI stuff. But tell you what, let's do one other thing last minute for those of y'all that have stuck around this entire time. Let's come over here and let's say, imagine, isometric game image for a tree. Right. And I could go into a whole lot more detail describing that for this example that I'm showing y'all right now. I don't want to take the time to come up with a really good prompt. But the point is, or what I'm hoping to show you is that we could do game design for DFK as well. And we could use something like Blue Willow to come up with icons or avatars or game pieces or something like that that we could implement in our new game that was maybe DFK related, right? I think, or I should say I know. So there's a tree, an isometric tree that we have. And if we don't like that, we could spin it again. I think y'all are familiar with how Midjourney works and all that kind of stuff, upscaling or getting variations on a specific tree type, or even just re-rolling the whole thing. So I don't know if I want to spend a ton more time. There's an upscale version of that interesting, like a newt colored cat. Is that what it is? With a salamander skin. I got it. That's kind of cool. So we could work on game assets. So Bravo Slab, I don't know if you're still in chat or if you've needed to run off to do other things. I am interested. I know that you said you had some game asset stuff for me to look at for the game that I was already putting together. And if you're interested in sharing that, let's talk about that through Discord. I guess you just message me. Other than that, we've got some really good methods here to generate game assets. And of course, we can customize it and do all the kind of stuff that we need to do here. I'll be talking about that a little bit more on another stream, as well as talking about other AI generated stuff. But for now, that was my initial, or maybe my second stream, kind of introduced DeFi Kingdoms and Chat GPT. Anyway, guys, thanks for showing up. I'm going to go ahead and call it a day for now. We'll do some more streams soon. I really am excited about DFK getting to our PvP, hopefully today. That'll be amazing. And I will see y'all sometime here in the future. Right. Until then, rock out.